Some people podcast through life making friends wherever they go, while others just podcast through life.
Wow. Which one's that from?
That's from Go West. That's the opening title card of Go West.
Great.
I find that this is the most successful pathways to use these
Take
opening.
these nice opening title cards
Yes.
that are flowery
Yes,
in their
because so
description.
often otherwise the title cards are just like, what?
So someone had to sit there and paint like what, right?
Yeah.
Like, because that's what you had to do. You had to like paint it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the thing I love in Babylon, that you see her.
Anime Wong.
Yeah.
Is she called Anime Wong in the movie?
No,
I
she's
forgot,
not.
right? But
No.
she's Anime Wong, right?
I was talking to someone who read and early drafted that script where all of the characters were just the people.
But that's what isn't that also just a thing that you do, that you just like, I'll just use the names of the people I mean and I'll replace it later.
I'll come up with a fake name later.
I'll just call my ex-girlfriend's name.
Right.
And then it's like, oh shit, I forgot to change it.
This is why I'm a bad screenwriter, is I'm like, open up new document, page 1, this is based on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sit there for 3 days trying to pick the right fake name. And I go, let me put this one on the back burner for a little while.
Mm.
Whereas those people just like, they fucking type in Anime Wong, write it down, and then later to come up with fake names.
Because,
What?
We'll remember when we did our All That Jazz episode.
I do remember.
Manuel
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
our fancy guest, revealed that the original script for that movie used everyone's real names.
Hal Prince and such.
Hal Prince and
Yes.
such.
Yes. No, that's how you do it.
And the many women he wronged.
That's how you make a masterpiece. Not wronging women,
No.
but using the real names of those women in the screenplay and then changing them lightly by the time the cameras roll. But also casting the women as themselves.
Yeah, well, that's right. He didn't give a fuck, right?
What
He
a
was
complicated guy.
Yeah, he was a complicated guy.
Remember we talked about him?
Did we do okay on him?
I think so. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't fucking know. We doing okay on this guy?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great.
We're skipping one ahead in the record order versus release order.
But that's fine. I kind of
it's
like
fine.
this, that we're still in the interesting ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Not
but
the-
it's like,
yeah.
are we doing it well? I don't know. Maybe we fucking biffed the last episode.
Yeah,
It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's the energy to put out in the world. Hi.
Hi.
Come on, introduce us. Our guests can talk too.
Yeah.
Please,
I apologize if
interject.
the last episode was totally biffed.
Yeah.
Guests
Sorry.
can speak
I've got
at
a
any
good
moment.
feeling. I
Great.
think it'll turn out fine.
I think it's
About the
gonna
last
turn out good.
episode.
About the last episode.
Yes,
This
one
one,
who knows.
I'm not feeling very good.
Well, no, I think it's going to work. James Urbaniak, you know James Urbaniak?
Yeah.
He'll have done the previous episode.
Okay, so actually, this episode's going to be a steep drop off.
Nope.
For the listeners.
No. Climbing ever higher.
No.
Have you ever been like I have received that note when I've turned in scripts where I've like
You biffed it?
neglected to.
Oh.
They're like at one point, at 3 points in the script, you refer to a character as Steven. You're like, oh, no, actually, his name is Steve-O, or like whatever.
Sure.
Whatever light change
You're
that
like,
I made.
sorry, I forgot to totally work through that.
The Control F missed that one.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
had a huge issue with that last year because my keyboard was broken and my find and my R key wasn't working.
Yeah.
So the find and replace, it was just like not happening. I was doing it manually, and a lot of stuff slipped through.
Yeah, you know what I find funny is like at times when I have auditioned for things and it's like a top secret project and they try to do that, like find and replace and change all the names and whatever and the specifics.
Right.
And like sometimes one will slip through, but also just the replacement words are terrible and transparent.
I love those. My friend was auditioning for something where we're like, it's Star Wars, right? And then it was like there was something was missed. I forget what it was. Or there was like a word replacement for lightsaber that was just very weak.
Yes.
And we're like, okay, it's Star Wars.
That's cool.
Okay, so I think I can tell it. Whatever. They didn't hire me. I had the opposite experience of this recently.
Whoa.
Where my agent sent me a thing that they were like untitled Lucasfilm animated project,
Ooh,
right?
Sure.
that's a
And they
tease.
were like plot details are under wraps, but I think it's safe to assume this might take place in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So then I read the sides, and the sides had Star Wars specifics in them.
Oh, sure.
Right? It said like holocron and credits.
It's like Darth Vader stands over the corpse of Luke Skywalker.
Well, it was like characters I didn't recognize, but they kept on saying,
but it's
like,
right. They're
Frick.
saying
Jedi, lightsaber, whatever.
Babu Frick,
right?
Babu Frick. They keep
Frick.
saying Babu Frick.
biopic.
Oh, that would be
It
nice.
was like Star Wars, like verbs and
Sort of
nouns
like a
without
blue
proper
collar.
names and whatever. And it like Coruscant was cited, right? And I was like, they're acting like this is top secret, but Coruscant has not been replaced in it.
Right.
And then I'm reading through the pages, and it's like, this tonally feels odd for Star Wars. It's like very jokey and sort of conversational and feels weirdly modern. And they're like at a college.
What?
And he's like talking about trying to like find artifacts. And I was like, motherfucker, this is an Indiana Jones thing.
That's
that they're
diabolical.
pretending is a Star Wars thing.
Wait, that's actually kind of clever.
Isn't that insane?
It's a
I think the
little
show
sick.
has since been canceled, which is the only reason I feel comfortable saying this.
I'm
Also,
glad
they
they-
didn't hire me.
Right.
That
I'm glad they
is
didn't do that.
Diabolical.
But it seemed like it was like an Indiana Jones cartoon show where it was like, I remember watching him in the old adventure holograms.
I think if I was microdosing just the right amount, I could do that to a script. But it has to be hard to be like, make all the Indiana Jones
slip
things
it
Star
into
Wars.
another.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
It was so funny.
Isn't that also just a sign of like IP creep
Kind of.
Disney or whatever? It's like,
right?
I like to think of that as the IP creep.
The IP creep. He's there. He can shift everything one universe over.
Somebody say my name. The IP creep.
That was the voice I did for the audition, by the way.
Oh,
Listen,
yeah.
this is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm
Thank
Griffin.
you. I'm David.
What'd you say, blank?
No, I said I'm David.
No, but before that,
Can't remember.
it sounded like you just said,
I think I said thank you
oh,
for finally doing the intro.
and I'll say blank you.
Mhm.
This is a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, sometimes they bounce. Baby, this is this guy we're talking about, Buster Keaton. We're doing a mini series on the films of Buster Keaton. It's called Podcast Junior. This is a true blank check career. This was a 10-film run where he just had a guy independently go, here's your money, make your movie.
Right.
Do another one.
This one's a Western? Cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
Only rule, almost kill yourself.
Yes,
Right.
every time.
Only rule
Yes.
mortal danger.
Yes. Although the two we're talking about today are an interesting pairing because one of them is just him being like, I feel like doing this. And the other one was the one time where the guy threw something at him and said, you have to make this.
Interesting.
Yes.
Which is which?
Seven
Check that out.
Chances.
7 Chances is like he's being forced into a
And is
scenario.
a
he doesn't
movie he
like.
basically took over. It was the one time
Really?
that Schenk was like, this is what you're doing.
Gank.
Skank.
I'm trying
Nick
to.
Skank.
Dana Stevens was correcting me on it.
I know.
I'm trying to retain David.
Roscoe, Skank.
Right.
We have to get the Danas right.
Yeah.
The Dana-isms.
Skank?
David.
Skank?
Skank?
Shink?
Skank?
Joe. Sorry, Joe Skank.
Joe Skank.
Yeah, just say skank. Honestly,
Skank.
right?
Skank.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Makes me feel better.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our guest today, returning to the show from
She's here.
the Bechdel cast.
Yes.
Recently, frequently from You're Wrong About,
Mm-hmm.
and your new book,
Yeah. Raw dog.
Raw Dog, a book about hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Loftus is here. Jamie, I've shared this anecdote on a different episode, but Ben and I went to go see a screening. Producer Ben and I went to go see a screening of Sherlock Jr. was playing
Ooh.
the other day at the Paris Theater right off of Central Park.
Whoa.
And going to the screening, I was listening to your Doughboys episode. And then afterwards, Ben was like, do you want to get food? And I was like, all I want to eat now is a hot dog.
Did you get one?
We got fucking Nathan's Cart Dogs and we walked
Oh
around
my
Central Park and it was
God.
lovely. And it felt like
That's
such
so
a perfect
romantic.
seeing a
It is
silent
romantic.
picture,
I love
Yeah.
that.
eating a Nathan's.
What'd you put on it?
Just mustard.
Just mustard.
Just mustard.
And the guy had it like panached
Oh.
at his service.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yes.
what do you mean?
He kind of was like old timey about it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, he like flipped the bun around really specifically.
he had a
Oh,
full
he
He
had a whole
sprayed
thing
the
going on?
mustard
Well,
real
yes.
fast.
Is he like? I know where the Paris is. He's like right in the corner of Central Park. Maybe
Yes.
he's like, all right,
Or what's-
I'm getting a
there's the,
touristy crowd. I got to put on
There's
some
the
show.
the
Hmm?
statue.
Yeah.
That's
I know
that
what you're
little
talking about.
square
in
block
front of
right
the
next to Central
famous
Park.
hotel.
Right.
and
Right, the
Across from the
plaza.
app,
That corner
the plaza.
between the
And the Apple
plaza.
store.
You know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
do.
He was
I
there.
have written many a review there.
Yes, he was there. That's where he was.
That's
where
you
he
guys
was.
went on a date 99 years ago.
I know.
That's so sweet.
It was very
It
old
is sweet.
fashioned.
I love
It
that.
was an old timey courtship.
We held hands.
Oh,
Yeah.
Did you?
Wow.
Yeah.
Any jacket exchanges?
No, I made Ben carry my books.
Okay.
Gave him a pin.
Yeah, I gave him a pin.
When did that stop? The pins. Is that the 60s?
I wanna bring
that
it back.
stops? Yeah, can we bring that
Yeah.
back?
Hey, if you go to Disney World, it never stopped.
Wow.
Pin trading is a whole fucking.
I have no idea what that is a reference
Okay.
to, and I'm happy I don't know.
Really?
I don't know anything about that.
It's a whole
Okay.
subculture.
I'm not saying that defensively.
It's a
sorry.
whole subculture.
No, that wasn't defensive
What is?
at all.
Yeah, it wasn't defensive at all. I definitely
Yeah.
didn't put my hands up like I was being arrested. What is it? What is it? I
They just
don't know.
fucking love pins there.
But like, do you wear many pins? Where
Yes,
do you
and
get
people
the
trade
pins? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
They sell the pins there at various places, but there's also this thing
But
where
are there like special pins that are
absolutely
limited?
all
Okay.
time limited things. There's so too many side tangents. They made no merchandise whatsoever of my character in Disenchanted.
I'm sorry.
What?
Insulting. I play a fucking cartoon chipmunk who
Yeah,
turns
well-
into a cat.
Yeah,
That's
but you,
peak pin.
Yes.
Yeah.
you
That's begging for a pin.
wished on some wishing stone when
Yes.
you were 10 to have
Curse.
merch made of you.
Right.
And then now every time you're in a thing that seems merchandisable,
I
they're
know.
like, we'll make merch of everything but Griffin.
Played a fucking superhero and a talking cat, and I got nothing.
You're
but
not-
kiss.
Yeah, you're not going to get a surer thing than the Disenchanted.
No, done. What the fuck happened? But so I was like, I guess I gotta fucking buy all the merch from the first movie that the character existed in when I didn't play him, right?
Unbelievable.
The best pin of my character on eBay, $900.
Wow.
You got priced out?
Priced out, fucking boxed out. And this is when I was looking like 2 years when I got the part before the movie had
Mhm.
been announced, maybe, or, it wasn't like, oh, there's a bump.
Oh, wow. Here it is. 9. Wow. And it really is just
It's just a little
a
pin
chipmunk.
Can
of
you pay in
little cartoon
4?
chipmunk.
Yeah. Maybe just split that up.
Just pay in 4.
Well, so-
Maybe get a new credit card.
yeah.
This is the thing. This is the thing,
I'm
David.
drowning in pin payments. What's up?
Most of the stores that sell pins at Disney World, if you're like, let me see your pin board, the guy who works behind the counter, the guy or gal who works behind the counter,
Yeah.
takes out a board and it's a bunch of pins. It's almost like a take a penny, leave a penny.
Right.
And you can like give them a pin and take one off
Oh,
the board.
interesting.
Yeah. So there's this whole secret underground.
So the next time you go to Disney, you're just going to be doing that. You're
Right.
just going to be, yeah, this is the only one.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of, oh, well, wait, this one's only $100.
Which one? Let me see if I have it. Yeah, I have that. The bow? Yeah, I have that.
Oh.
He's got
Yeah.
that one.
I didn't
see
pay
it?
100. I waited for a good deal.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad for you.
Listen, we're talking about Buster Keaton, of course.
I bet there's pins of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I was doing some research, he never got enough merchandise in his day.
I feel like he mostly, he was like a big deal in cartoons later on.
Yes, and there's like Free and Easy, or maybe it's in Spite Marriage. We'll rewatch Spite Marriage for this. But there is a bit with him with a doll of himself.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know if it was ever mass produced. That's what I've been trying to find out.
I love that he's just, I feel like we need more huge movie stars who basically just look really tired. I think that's so nice.
It is
Thank
the
you.
magic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he does look tired. I would love a Buster action figure. He is athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could have one where, like, he could have a mustache or a magnifying glass.
Sure. You
a
want to dress him
hat.
up.
Exactly. You could
Yeah.
have various.
Dress him up and move him around. Jamie, what's your relationship to Buster Keaton? We sort of, when we decided we were doing this, we went through our favorite guests from the past and just started knocking on doors and going like, do you like Buster Keaton by any chance?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to identify the people who we're already friends with who have some appreciation for his work. And
Yeah.
you bumped up to the top of the list very quickly.
I like Buster Keaton a lot. I don't think I haven't seen all of his work, but I watched it when I was a kid and I liked it. And then I had to watch it in film school, but I really got into it like 5 years ago.
Okay.
When I was like starting to put together more physical comedy shows myself. I'm like, well, seems like a good person to watch.
Yeah.
And what I like about Buster Keaton is that he didn't famously like molest teenagers, which you can't say
An
of all stars of that era.
Unbelievable quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which and I would say maybe a little rare at
Right.
this time. And so I really liked. I thought his like personal history was really interesting, and
Yeah.
he's just like really fucking good. I had not seen either of the
Neither
movies
had I.
Yeah.
for today. But I'd seen the big ones. I'd seen The
Sure.
General. I'd seen Sherlock Jr. Yeah, I'm a fan. He puts me in a good mood.
Go West is kind of slept on, and then Seven Chances is so famous for the end section, but I think otherwise, I think it's a movie that more often like bits of it get repurposed in montages, or people just watch the chase or whatever.
The chase is great. I mean,
the chase is incredible.
Both of these movies weirdly end with a stampede of some sort, whether it be aggrieved women or cattle.
Yes,
right.
Which in 1925 were the same thing.
Right.
The man loved being chased. Yes.
He did love it. And there's just what a spectacle, because Cops has you know, a stampede of cops. He loves stampedes, I feel like.
That thing where the amount of creatures chasing him becomes so large it's almost abstract.
It's not a few.
Right.
It's
it's so
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You can't
The
count.
big
You can't count it.
Yes. But he is such a good on-screen runner.
Yes.
I loved was it Go West? Yeah, it is with the cops, when the cops are running, where he like, I don't know. I mean, like his timing is incredible, obviously, but like he falls behind and then he surges ahead and then he falls behind again. And you're like, that was all planned. How did you pull that off? It's incredible.
His control is insane. He does everything while making it look like he's putting in a minimum amount of effort and he's unaware. And also his shooting style is so unfussy. And especially when it comes to these big chase scenes, it really is impressive how much he just like holds the camera way back, doesn't cut, watches you.
And he's just this little ant going.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Seven Chances is all that we'll talk about. You know, he does little leaps, he does the tree, he does a lot of cool things.
Blow my fucking mind. Because it looks like you're watching like a Super Mario speed run.
Yes, that's what he looks like.
Where you're like, someone has just practiced the timing of this so perfectly that he just knows exactly when to jump and how to land without missing a beat.
He's not dynamic in this sort of Tom Cruise way of like, oh, there are like pistons pumping inside this man. He's like a little cartoon thing that's going.
Yes.
That's like been wound up.
It's a little sprite. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He is good.
Now,
like like his story for 1920s Hollywood is surprisingly.
Well, that's Jamie's point. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was leaping back to Jamie's point.
Because you talk about most people from this time, you gotta separate the art from the artist.
Yeah,
I like that you can go like, I'm a fan of his work and his personal life.
He seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was horny in a regular way, and he divorced, and he had affairs, perhaps, but like
he had a drinking problem. But
sure.
I think he was more like the guy was a little haunted.
Haunted. Obviously, he was a vaudeville child, which is its own like, you know, bizarre.
But like no accounts of him fucking perpetuating cycles of abuse on other people.
And also just like none of that sort of like, oh, and
him.
Sure, he ran over several people in his jalopy, but you know, and then some like
that's just
knuckle-dusted
done.
guy, would be like, hey, nobody hears about this, okay? You know, or whatever.
It was like 100 years ago. It's not like I think there's suddenly going to be a fucking Sharon Waxman expose. We finally got a like if there was stuff that was horrible about him, it would have come out in the wash by now.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely tired man, Buster Keaton.
Mr. Sleepy himself.
He is so sleepy.
Here's something I want to throw out. We announced the miniseries. At the time we announced it, we had recorded the first couple episodes. A comment I saw a lot on Twitter and the like. Twitter,
are you aware
a
these
great
movies
normal
are
place.
silent? Right.
Yeah, which I will say was a shock to me. I had not noticed until people pointed it out.
Right.
No, a question that was thrown out a lot was, are you guys going to talk about how hot Buster is?
I think we already did.
But I think we need to talk about it more because clearly there's demand.
I'm so glad I'm here.
I felt like you were possibly the right guest to get into this conversation.
I would love to talk about this. Yes.
Right.
Well, I guess I would be first curious of like, what do you feel is hot about Buster Keaton?
I will say this. When I look at him, I'm like, I wish that's exactly how I looked.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Where it's
Sure.
like, if I look at someone like Chris Evans, I'm just like, well, he's a different species than I am. There's no world in which I think I possibly look
Star
at him.
of Ghosted?
Yeah. Do you know that movie exists?
Look,
I swear to God,
I walked into the room and my wife was watching it, and I was
filed for divorce.
almost scandalized. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "I don't know. It came on.
We built a life together.
It's impossible for Ghosted to come on. You have to choose it.
In our marital bed, you're watching Ghosted?
And I walked in, and she was like, "It's pretty bad," and I'm like, "Yeah, you know, it had that vibe." And Ryan Reynolds, I don't know if you know this, appears in the film in a sort of a cameo role. He's kind of talks a lot.
And
Like,
he never
talks
does
real
this.
fast.
He
right.
never does this.
Is he drinking some of his own alcohol by any chance?
He may be, honestly. Like
This fucking infuriating thing where every A-list star needs to make 5 cameos in the other A-list stars' movies and vice versa.
But it's like the same 10.
Exactly.
Guys.
To be like, well, we're all friends.
Right. And then just like, I wasn't worried about you not being friends. She was like, I'm like, oh God, Ryan Reynolds. He has like an eye patch and he's going like, ugh! And like, and she's like, yeah, Anthony Mackie already showed up and Sebastian Stan. And I was just like,
what are we doing?
Fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
And then it just kept running, and then Apple played all of Tetris. Like, and neither of us watched that.
Yeah.
Apple is truly trying to be like, these movies are in households. Right?
The Russos had no direct involvement in Ghosted, right?
I don't think so,
but it feels like everyone is blaming them for it.
Everyone's just sort of mad at them, like, you did this.
This is your fault, one way or another.
They helped create the problem that led to Ghosted.
Yes.
But the thing about Ghosted is it's directed by Dexter Fletcher, and
Insane.
I enjoyed
He's
Rocket
a solid
Man.
filmmaker.
Exactly.
Yes.
I got no beef with him.
Wow, the director of Rocket Man
Yeah,
did Ghosted?
And honestly, I like Chris Evans and Ana de Armas.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Am I gonna watch Ghosted?
Yeah, I think should we throw it on?
It has like, should we turn this into a Ghosted episode?
Ghosted live watch?
Yeah. Isn't like Tim Blake Nelson in it too? Like
He's
it
the
has
villain,
some ringers.
I think.
Yeah.
Of course, but this is the whole thing. It's like there's some sort of like, atmosphere of this movie cannot exist, that just once they roll the cameras, like the charisma has to be sucked out of the room with like a vacuum.
But your thing of like, why can no one make a comedy without guns in it? When that trailer came out, I was like, I'm kind of into this. So the premise of the movie is just they go on a date, she doesn't respond.
Right.
Chris Evans freaks out trying to find her.
Right.
Right? And it's like, okay,
he got ghosted.
It's just he's flying across the world trying to find the woman who ghosted him. And then it's like minute 1, second 20 of trailer is turns out she's a spy.
Right.
And that's why she ghosted him, because she was undercover and now he's roped into her mission.
But that's 2 movies.
2 different movies. And I couldn't give less of a shit about the second one. David.
Yep.
It's the summer. Summertime.
Sun's in the sky.
Living's easy.
Yeah.
You know what makes it easier?
What?
Bombas.
Well, because they've got those thoughtfully designed clothes.
Yep.
Make you feel effortlessly at ease.
Here's the thing I love about Bombas. When it's cold outside, Bombas can keep you warm.
Okay, makes sense.
When it's hot outside, the sun blaring down on
Don't
you,
want to be warm anymore. Better throw my Bombas away.
Suddenly, Bombas can make it loose and easy and breathable.
That's true, because they do have tagless tees.
Yeah.
Soft underwear, sweat-wicking socks.
Yep.
Those, of course, socks, underwear, t-shirts, number 1, 2, and 3 most requested items in homeless shelters, Griffin.
And that's why, for every one of those comfy items you purchase, Bombas donates another comfy item to someone in need.
Obviously, everything very effortlessly soft. I've raved about Bombas on this podcast for years. They're the clothes you want to get dressed and move in every day.
Soft, breezy layers.
No-show socks made with breathable yarns for a barely there feel. Silicone grips, contour design, so you're not sliding around Garfield style.
Oh, boy. Giffield style.
Giffield style.
I have a Bombas t-shirt, a nice little Bombas pocket tee that is, it's like the most lightweight, breathable shirt I own.
Yeah.
It's such a good, just lounging around at home, sitting in front of a fan, trying to stay cool shirt.
We love it.
I love it.
And also, because they've got that Bombas 100% happiness guarantee. You're covered for life. Anytime you want a return or an exchange or replacement, they are happy to help. They've also donated over 100 million items to charity. Every purchase adds to that impact.
And they're also the most successful. No, what were you going to say, Dave?
I was going to cue you up for this.
Well, then cue me up.
And as you often point out,
they're also the most successful company in the history of Shark Tank.
Exactly. So go to bombas.com/check and use code CHECK for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/check and use code CHECK at checkout. Bombas.com/check, code CHECK.
My boys, Buster. So part of this, what I was trying to say here is like a projection thing where I'm like, Buster feels like the glow up version of how I wish I looked within the realm of who I am. You know,
I get that.
Where I'm like, weak little skinny sad boy. With beautiful depth in his eyes.
That's what it's all the bag. As a man with heavy bags himself. Yes. I have heavy eye bags.
Hey, same here.
the sort of like the haunted eyes is what does it for me the most.
Yeah.
But then there's also just kind of something saucy about him, like very secretly. And like his movies are, I don't know. His movies are cute.
And he's always
they're flirty.
He's always a romantic lead. There's always a
always a
romance
lady
at the central of the film. Yeah.
And he's kind of, he's kind of got something there.
I saw Brendan Hines, friend of the show, past and future guest. He and I went this weekend they've been doing Harold Lloyd movies at Film Forum here in New York City. Harold Lloyd was like an absurdly, conventionally handsome man. He was like the Chris Evans star of Ghosted of his day.
Right.
And it's a thing that's discussed where it's like he came up with like, he found dumb glasses and like would make sillier faces to try to make himself look less handsome. And Charlie Chaplin, the same fucking deal where he was like a pretty conventionally handsome guy and then was like, could put on a little mustache and like wear shittier clothes and whatever. There's something interesting to the fact that Buster doesn't do anything to make himself look less attractive, but through sheer performance is able to sell that he is low status underdog in his movies. Whereas those other guys had this arrogance of like, no one would buy me as the butt of a joke.
Right.
I have to make myself look more like the common man.
What do you think?
The fool.
There's something
Buster?
insecure about it.
The lady.
Right.
I mean, Buster, I want to be Buster and be with Buster.
Yes.
Hey.
There's a little bit of both, and I feel like that is part of his appeal because I genuinely wish I could do so much of what he can do, and it's just like I would break. Most people would break and die.
Yes.
But also, I don't know.
Which he did both. Let's acknowledge. He did both break and eventually die.
He like didn't he like break his neck at some point, and then they told
Sherlock
him years
Jr.
later. Okay.
Yes. He didn't realize it.
God.
He gets up and finishes the take and then finished the movie.
That's like like how Michelle Yeoh broke her back during Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and just never knew.
Yes.
I was like, how could you? I don't know.
It's wild shit.
But yeah, but then I feel like Buster's really good at like the balance that he's striking as a romantic lead, where it's like he's a plausible romantic lead, but he's not. It doesn't feel like in the way that when some comic actors are a romantic lead, it's in this weird self-conscious way, but it just feels like very natural the way he does it. I really liked that in 7 Chances, the kiss is bad.
Yes.
And like he just, I don't know, it doesn't feel self-conscious in the way that he needs to like prove he's the quote unquote appropriate amount of hot to be a romantic lead. Like it just works. You totally get why women want to be with him, and you totally get why they don't.
He's very good at 7 Chances, of course, has to navigate that perfectly.
Yes.
Right.
He's got a weird confidence, though. That I think that's a key. Outside of, I think he's got like just kind of a beautiful face, right?
Oh,
it is a very special face. He is very pretty.
Right. He's
very
got
pretty.
A beautiful
long head.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a long flat head.
Big long head.
Yep.
There's a term JJ pulled up in the research in some Buster quote where he was describing his stone face, and one of the terms he used was a flat pan to describe his own face.
Right.
He said,
Sexy.
my mug, my flat pan.
I would make out with him.
You would? I would, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
But
it's hard. This is the thing.
I think I'd be nervous to have sex with him because I think there would be hijinks and I'd have to be involved. Like it would have to go wrong in some very elaborate, well done.
It wouldn't go right. I can guarantee you that. But this is another thing. I think it's hard to imagine him having sex in a way that's kind of interesting. Where even you talk about making out with him, you're like, there's something oddly chaste about him. There's this quiet confidence to him that extends to the fact that like he's not needing to put on something of like, well, I'm going to play dorkier than I am. He just kind of feels like he is. He's unreadable. Right? And there's just sort of this like stillness and this peace to him.
He has this like, which makes sense because he's a vaudeville kid, but you're just like, he has this like homeschooled energy about him.
Right.
Where when I've noticed, when people are homeschooled and hot, they know it, but in this way that is a little weird.
Yes.
They can't quite interact with you like a hot person who went to public school. I don't know what I mean by that, and
Jamie,
I feel like people are going to yell at me.
No,
but I
completely understand what you mean. I feel like you have a specific example in your head that you are thinking of that we don't know about.
Yes.
A name you changed in the screenplay.
Right. But I also just like, there's a difference between like knowing how to get, at school you got to be flirty. You got to be, you're in this social scene, right?
Yes.
And being homeschooled and like
having to turn it on.
Jamie, we will have talked about this in the first episode and sort of setting context of his career, but he was the first kid of like really middling vaudeville entertainers, right? Who start working him into the act, and he immediately is the star of the act and basically makes his father career. His father has a career finally because of Buster blowing
I'm sure
up this
that
act.
ends well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they have 2 other children, and those 2 children get to go to like nice private schools and have like fancy toys and stuff. And Buster is like the breadwinner for the family who went to school one day in his entire life.
No.
And he wasn't even like homeschooled, really. He was just in a world with adults, learning like human behavior.
I listened to an interview with Dana yesterday and
Yes.
about like him getting tossed into the crowd with like the handle on his jacket. It's nuts.
Nuts stuff. But like, yeah, it was just this thing of him like day in, day out being like, oh, if I do this here, it gets more of a laugh than if I wait here and I do it then.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
like the weirdest homeschool possible.
Exactly.
Is how do I get
It is.
thrown correctly by
Right.
my
How
parents?
do I be the human mop for, in a way that will make my family money?
Right. But he has this like high level intelligence for like things that other people don't think about that is in his being.
Right.
And by the time he's making movies and like, he's 27 in these 2 films.
Which is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I was like, wow, why can't 27-year-olds look that tired anymore?
Yes, I know.
The tired thing. And that is also ultimately, it's just very sexy to be tired. I would like for people to really,
look,
that's got to
This is
catch on.
big for me.
look,
Like being
I think you're preaching to the choir. This is a room of people who try to own looking tired all the time
all I can
because
do.
we've learned that you cannot, you can't fight it.
No, can't untired myself.
You're just going to get sleepier.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love to be sleepy. And so maybe that's why, maybe I sort of prefer Buster to these other guys because he's haunted.
Yeah.
In a way that feels like he's not trying to win my affection.
But I
and
also
thus he
think
gets even more of it.
Ben and I were having this conversation after we saw Sherlock Jr.
While you were eating your frickin' hot dogs.
eating our Frankfurters.
Yeah, ugh.
And Ben was
No
just
ketchup.
like, no.
Interesting.
I would have done ketchup and mustard personally. I don't know. Yeah, I think we're similar, right?
I mix it up. I don't have. I go with the mood at the moment.
Sure.
Mm.
I'm verse when it comes to dogs.
Mm.
I'm pretty verse.
Were they water dogs or grill dogs? If it's Nathan's, I would think they'd be on a
think they're
grill.
grill.
They're grill
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah. That's why you go to the Nathan's cart as opposed to the.
I don't mind a water dog. I like a water dog.
I don't either, but that was not the choice we made on that day.
No.
But given the choice, I'm going grills.
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
But Ben, we were eating our Frankfurters, and Ben was just going like, "What's his deal?"
Yeah, I guess I kind of was
Right?
like that.
You
Sure.
were like, "Can you explain to me what is Buster Keaton's thing?" And in a way where you were like, "I've been watching these movies. I'm getting into him. I think he's really funny, but what is this comedic persona? I can't explain it."
Yeah, it's not really clearly definable, though it is at the same time.
Right.
But it just feels like an amalgamation of a lot of stuff.
Right. But part of it is here's this guy who's constantly under the boot of society,
Right.
who also always seems like he's maybe halfway towards falling asleep
Right.
in very high stakes, very high danger situations that he somehow always comes out of perfectly.
He Mr. Magoo's his way out of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
But can't react to it in this cool way. I don't know.
You're right. He
Yeah.
never celebrates the triumphs either. He's
No.
just like
He just
okay.
keeps walking.
Yes.
I love him so much. Oh man, the more we talk about him, the more I love him.
I agree.
Because there's a million, people who try to train, but it's the only way you can be this kind of person is to be thrown around by your
Truly.
father 100 years ago.
Yes.
It just can't really happen anymore.
That's the thing.
Dressed as a Irish person
Oh yes, have you seen
stereotype.
Buster Keaton dressed as an Irish person?
I saw the picture
Yes.
of him as a kid, as a little old man.
The little
Yes.
bald one. Yeah.
That is apparently an
that's an
Irish
Irish
stereotype.
That was the stereotype.
Jamie,
of an Irish
that
person.
was my reaction too. I was like, I don't get why this is an Irishman.
Yeah.
But it is. You guys have seen this already, obviously.
Someone's gonna Photoshop that picture with the Irishman and Martin Scorsese.
They
picture,
should do that.
right? Yeah.
They should Photoshop you into it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll Photoshop my daughter into it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a lot to be done with it.
Yeah, that's a great Halloween costume for your daughter. this
David,
year.
that's what your daughter.
That's what
You
you
should dress her
guys
for
don't
Halloween
understand.
next year.
She's an Irishman. And
Yes.
they're like, what are you talking about?
It's actually really offensive.
right. This would be very offensive in the 1900s. Little Buster. little
Like a little
Buster.
peanut.
But that's the other part of it is just like the fact that he doesn't feel the need to show off, right?
Yeah.
That it feels like he's constantly like trying to be modest in his work. And even the way he frames his stunts are so unshow-offy, like as a director. And he doesn't have that satisfaction of the moment of like, I killed that, you know?
Right.
He never has that look to the audience where he's like, look at me.
He's kind of high status, low status. And he switches
Simultaneously.
between both of them like
Right.
seamlessly. It's
In
really
the space
wild.
of I feel like that happens a lot in Seven Chances.
Seven Chances, right. It's
yeah,
very
where
heavy
he's
on
like
that.
back and forth every 2 seconds, but it always makes sense. I don't know.
It
See-
does. Yeah, no, you're right. I think Seven Chances is amazing.
I like
See,
it much
okay,
better.
so what's
I know
interesting,
he doesn't
he
like it, and
hated
we'll
it.
talk about this. Yes, he was very down on Seven Chances.
He was like, it's my first
personally.
bad picture.
He's
Where it was
wrong.
Neville, it
He
was a
is-
stinker.
He is wrong.
Yeah.
But I of the ones like we've watched so far for the pod, so
Yes.
we've only watched 4 mains so far for the pod.
Sure.
He is my favorite
Really?
of the 4 we've watched so far.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Sherlock Jr. will have been the episode
It's
before
not
this, which is-
counting
right,
things like that.
undeniable.
It is a bit undeniable. Wait, let's talk about Seven Chances a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Buster Keaton. He signed a contract and he delivered 4 movies. The first 4 movies. 3 Ages, Our Hospitality,
But then Sherlock Jr. and especially The Navigator are
And The
fucking
Navigator,
humongous.
right. They're
Navigator
big hits.
blows up.
That was bigger than Sherlock Jr.
I believe that was his biggest
Mhm.
film.
Wow.
Yeah, at least at the time. Yeah.
And so he signs another deal to do 6 more movies. He's
Mhm.
going to make $27,000 per movie,
Mm,
which is about $1,000 a week.
yeah.
Okay, that
Nice.
sounds good.
Nice work if you can get it. Yeah.
That keeps,
and he's making like 2 pictures a year, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that basically keeps him independent all the way through like Steamboat
Yes.
Bill Jr.
Mhm.
And Joe Skank, as you mentioned, Griff, mostly had left him alone, but Seven Chances is the only one he forces on him. Yeah, this is the thing, Griff. Sherlock Jr. had actually somewhat disappointed, and The Navigator does do well, but it costs a lot of money. So there was some anxiety over that.
Sure.
So maybe
maybe we
that's
need to
why-
rein him in a little bit.
Right. Maybe that's why this is the moment where Joe Skink has a little, that's his producer, has a little leverage on him.
I do also think there's this point where you look at a lot of like comedy A-listers, right? They start out their career where it's like you find the right collaborators, you're generating your own material, here are the characters you've been dying to do. And then a lot of these guys at a certain point when they get really big throttle into a point where they're like, I don't know, could I do like a modern version of this? What's like a hit that I can adapt? What's a thing I can option?
Right.
You know, you start slotting yourself in where Sandler's like, let me just like remake Mr. Deeds. Or let me find like a spec script that's floating around, have my guys rewrite it to fit my personality more.
Yeah, but if you're Eddie Murphy, why not just remake Dr. Dolittle?
Right.
Why
right.
not? And I liked it better.
Yeah.
The way
Oh,
he did it.
It is better.
It is better.
Wait, is that indisputable that Eddie Murphy's Dr. Dolittle is better than Rex
I think it
Harrison's
almost
Dr.
has to
Dolittle,
be.
right? Because Rex Harrison's one is bad.
Bad.
It's bad and long.
It's
So
long, it's
fucking,
boring.
It's the longest movie ever made.
Right.
It is.
And
Yeah.
obviously Robert Downey Jr. came for the throne and missed. So
Yeah.
that's
I
resolved.
loved watching him try to come for the throne,
my
though.
God.
It was thrilling.
I've seen that movie twice.
I was telling
Absolutely
David,
horrible.
I've been on a bit of an Eddie kick, and I rewatched Dr. Dolittle 1, and I was like, God, it's such a like slam dunk premise to just be like, his name's Dolittle and he talks to animals. Why has no one tried to do this since Eddie Murphy? And then I remembered, oh, the biggest movie star tried to do it 2 years ago. And it was the most colossal atomic disaster.
Oh, it looked like shit, and it felt like shit to
Yeah,
watch.
But that's the thing with the
It
Eddie
did
Murphy
feel
movie.
like shit to watch.
It felt like shit
Correct.
to watch.
The Eddie Murphy movie is pretty good. Norm is the dog.
Yes.
Chris Rock is the hamster.
It's a guinea pig. It's the length of a Buster Keaton feature. It is truly like 65 minutes long before credits.
you don't need much
It
more.
basically has
Yeah.
no plot. And it's like, all you need from this movie is just he talks to animals.
Mhm.
The animals talk to him. They have funny voices. Get ringers in.
He's a-
Fucking Ellen DeGeneres and Albert Brooks and whoever.
He is a doctor, though.
Yeah, of course.
Well, like he's like a real. He's like a doctor with a stethoscope.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like classically Dr. Dolittle is more of a PhD doctor, right?
The plot of that
more
film,
of a call me doctor, and you're like, yeah, okay, Doctor Dolittle.
insofar as there is a plot, the plot of that film is that he has a private practice with
I want to say Oliver Platt,
and
Richard Schiff.
Yes.
I've seen this movie a lot.
And Peter Boyle is thinking about acquiring them.
He's gonna buy them. There's like a business plot.
Right. And he talked to animals as a kid. His dad, Ozzie Davis, thought he was insane, brought him to a therapist who, like, I don't know,
Told him to
hypnotized
not
him,
worry
trained him
about
out of it.
Right. Yeah.
And then he gets into a car crash and suddenly the voices come back to him. And Oliver Platt and Richard Schiff are like, keep it together for 5 more days. And he's like, I gotta do brain surgery on this tiger. And that's the entire plot of the movie is just he wants to perform surgery on this tiger and they want him to not embarrass him.
Who plays the tiger?
Albert Brooks. I'm a tiger.
I
need brain surgery.
I don't think I knew who all the famous people in that movie were the last time I saw this movie. I got to go back.
I feel the same.
It's like just wall-to-wall stunt casting.
I feel like which is
Yeah.
necessary.
I think Gary Shandling's a pigeon. It's like fucking everyone. John Leguizamo's a rat.
Oh, and then I remember because the daughters were Raven and then the girl who played Penny Proud on The Proud Family, Kyla Pratt.
Yes.
That was what was interesting to me at the time. And also just famous guy talking to animals. It works. And there was like a moment there where it was like dads getting into accidents was a pretty normal part of movies because I was thinking of Jack Frost as well.
Well,
where it's just like Michael Keaton dies in a car accident.
He does die, but it's okay
but
because he
like-
gets turned into a snowman that looks like George Clooney.
Yeah, it's perfect. Everything works out fine.
I love that.
But yes,
do we love that? Is that movie depressing? I've not.
That movie's
seen,
depressing.
right?
That movie's depressing.
that movie's
Clive
depressing.
Tompkins is in the beginning of that movie.
That's true.
Who does he play?
Yeah.
It was directed by Jimmy
A
Miller,
guy.
who did a lot of Mr. Show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him about it once, and I'll send it to you. I asked for a full. He gave me so much information.
Please
He's like,
send it to
it's
me.
like a 12-tweet thread.
You know about the George Clooney thing, though, right? The snowman looks like George Clooney because George Clooney was supposed to be in the movie. I just always have to bring it
That
up.
movie
They
was meant for
never-
George Clooney. It took him a really long time to build the thing, and he saw the model, and he was like, "I think this is going to be a career killer." And it was like right after
But it was
Batman
like
and
a
Robin.
Henson, right?
That is
yes.
George Clooney's
Oh my
face.
God, that is George
It's
Clooney's
George
face.
Clooney's face on a snowman. This is the thing. They understood the assignment
They did
in a way.
It's perfect, but it's like
But he correctly saw that and was like, oh my God.
George Clooney quit. The movie was so far along, they had built the snowman, and they were like, "Who is a leading man who looks a little bit like the snowman?" And they
like
laid it
George
on Michael
Clooney.
Keaton.
I love the idea of them just holding up headshots being like,
But it was like a train they couldn't stop. They were like, someone has to. The thing's been
it's
built.
just weird that it kind of does look like George Clooney.
Yes.
so strange.
It's like a perfect caricature of George Clooney.
But I mean, if I saw a snowman that looked too much like me, I would also want to not be anywhere near it.
Yeah,
Don't
Right.
show that to me.
Right, it's like an uncanny valley thing. Like the fact that you're revolting against it means that there's some survival mechanism that's working.
Oh my God.
But this
All
is
right.
yes, these types of movies we're talking about are the things that get thrown at someone when they're like a proven A-list comedy star, and they maybe don't want to have to like get in the trenches and generate their own material anymore, right? And Joe Skank, comes to him and basically is like, here you go, here's an alley-oop. Here's a farce that's killing it on Broadway.
Right.
I brought it to you. What a simple premise. Let's slot you in it as the leading man.
And Keaton called it the type of unbelievable farce I don't like, which is I guess he just thinks it's too high concept. Maybe the whole like he's got to get married today or else he's gonna lose all the money.
Well,
I guess, which to me, great
I
bit.
loved
Incredible
it. I thought it was
setup.
so goofy.
yeah, but you compare this to Go West, where the setup is he decides to go west and gets a cow. That's his dream setup for a movie is, I don't know, give me one thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Give me a place.
But the thing with Go West, which we will talk about,
Yes.
is right. The plot sounds like it's like a guy goes west.
Yeah.
But then like 10 minutes in, it's like the guy's gonna fall in love with a cow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
secret. That's what this is about.
Right,
It's
this
gonna
is a
be
two-hander.
him and the cow.
Yeah.
Him and the cow.
I prefer the love story in Go West to the love story in Seven Chances, but I like Seven Chances better.
I like Seven Chances better, but yes, I mean she should not give him the time of day.
No.
And I am annoyed at him in the end of the movie.
Of course.
Oh,
which
I
will-
loved her letter though. Her letter to him is so funny. Where I was like, I should end all my texts to guys like, just moving forward. P.S. I think I will be home all day. Like, I was like, that's
that's
usually
great.
true.
Yeah,
For her
you
to
set your
say.
own
Right,
terms.
just come knock on my door.
So my theory is, I think why he hated this so much. He hated this as a piece of material, and he hated even how it turned out at the end. Talking about the peculiarities of his persona, especially as a romantic lead.
Mhm.
This is a movie where this character is driving the machinations of the plot. Whereas most Buster Keaton movies are a movie happens to him accidentally,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm, sure.
This is a movie
He's
where
just trying to be normal and things keep being not normal.
right.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it felt like anathema to him. Of like, my whole thing is that I'm just standing at the center of a storm and I'm reacting to stuff.
and then I move to the next storm.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas this guy has to like plot.
Mhm.
And it's like the things are set in motion and he's the one who's like, here's what I need to do. And there's like an innate level of dishonesty of him trying to pick up these women, which he talks a lot about. Like, he thought it was the death of comedy to worry about whether you were sympathetic or not.
Right.
But
Interesting. Okay.
I do think he had some central metronome without ever intellectualizing it of what makes me a character that audiences will like root for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he felt to some degree this breaking of like, this guy's kind of a cad.
Yeah.
If you read the plot aloud, he sounds like a cad.
Yes.
I think Keaton gets how to make him not feel like a cad.
He does. He does. He does a good job, but you get why he would dislike this movie because it feels like it's going against everything he had spent
He's
decades
a sourpuss.
following.
It definitely doesn't
Flat
feel
pan.
like any other Buster Keaton movie that I've seen, but that's kind of why I liked it. I was like, oh, I wouldn't expect him to see him in something that was like farce feeling.
No.
Right.
And he's playing like sort of, I don't know. In some of his other features, you get him like pretending to be a rich person,
Mm.
you know, or like a sort of smooth operator
Mhm.
for moments. This,
And then
he's
getting
more like
undercut.
kind of that guy, and then he's slowly being broken down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it worked. I liked it a lot.
It's
too.
such a
Movie-
good premise.
movie
Which you should
completely
just
works.
say
Yeah.
he's got a business partner. Their firm is like going under.
Yes.
They're not only like bankrupt, but they might even go to jail.
It's perfectly vague.
Yes.
There's just
There's
like
ruin
something bad
untold.
happened.
Right.
Yes.
Money soon or else.
Right.
Right.
Consequences are unimaginably bad.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're being chased by a lawyer who's coming to like collect someone who wants to break their kneecaps or something.
Yes. Played by Snitz Edwards.
Love
This guy.
That guy.
What a face this guy
What
has
a
got.
name. His name, let me just
Snitz.
remind you, his name is Snitz Edwards.
Yes, a Hungarian Jewish performer
Yes.
who had become a big Broadway star in the turn of the century.
I mean, talk about us not having enough modern movie stars who look tired. We don't have enough guys like this lighten up Broadway.
He's in 3 Busters, so we will talk about Snitz Edwards again probably.
He
He's
looks
in
like-
college.
back?
Snitz is best.
And let's make it clear,
He's
this is
in Ghosted too, but I
Yes.
thought it felt
it was
crowbarred.
forced. Well, there's nothing to do. It was just a pop. It was a cameo pop. This is a pro Snitz podcast. We should make very clear.
Oh, I'm
We're
a
pro
snitz head.
Snitz.
Yes.
Absolute snitz. Every time
he-
they cut to snitz, I was laughing.
His reaction shots are so funny. But that's
good.
the other thing. Like, at times, Snitz is almost occupying the classic Buster role. The longer the movie goes on.
His face is doing so. He's what apparently is referred to as a homely face.
Okay.
Performer.
Uh-huh.
Like where it's just like, just one look at this guy's face is gonna get like the whole theater laughing.
Yes.
If you just like, if a lady like looks at him and he's just like, then like the whole theater's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
No, I smiled.
Yes. Every
For the
time.
listener. Okay, so yes, so he finds out from his lawyer Snitz
Mhm.
that he must marry.
Snitz is the executor of his grandfather's
Correct.
estate.
And if he marries by 7 p.m. on his 27th birthday, which happens to be this day,
Yes.
he will inherit $7 million, which seems like a lot of money. in-
Seven. Yes.
In
in,
1925 money.
Humongous.
Yeah.
He'd be fucking Nelson Rockefeller.
Yeah, sure. He'd be Nelson Rockefeller, the not yet born, later to be vice president of the
Okay,
United
fair
States. He'd
enough.
probably
I don't
been
know.
born, actually.
Who was the richest person in 1918? You know? What, this movie's what, 24, 25?
Yeah,
25.
1925.
Both
Let's
of
find
these
out.
movies
Who's
are
the richest
25.
person?
Henry
25.
Ford was the richest person alive. I love that I could Google
oh my
that.
God, that's so fast.
He'd
I
be
just
old
Googled
Hank Ford.
who was the richest person in 1925, and it was Henry Ford.
A cool, chill guy.
Very chill, very
Made everything
normal,
No
better.
mistakes.
Nope.
felt
No
good
mistakes.
about all people.
Great legacy.
Incredible.
right. So he does have a girlfriend,
He does.
a sweetheart, I should say.
Right. A sweetheart. I
People
gotta
weren't
bring that
saying-
term back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I think
The beginning of this movie is in color too.
Yeah, so
very briefly.
I should address that. Right.
Yeah.
Buster wanted to make the whole movie in Technicolor.
Basically, because he hated this thing so much
Right.
that he was like,
at least that'll be interesting.
if I do in color, it's a technical experiment.
But because of the way he made movies where he would shoot so much film and then cut out just, cut it down to the bone, it was too expensive. So they only did it for the prologue. And when I threw this movie on, I was like, did some weirdo colorize this movie?
That's what I
Yes. Yes.
I had that reaction and then
Right.
realized, like, nope, this isn't. Yes,
Right.
It's some Tumblr free. Hand paint a Buster Keaton movie.
I have fallen down this rabbit hole. There's this weird community of people on YouTube who do AI upscale 4K colorized 60 frames per second Busters.
Ooh.
Too many words.
They are
what?
disgusting.
I bet they must be very unsettling.
Yes.
Do they look ugly?
They're horrendous. Yeah, because it's like AI automatic coloring. So it's like,
Right. So it's like off.
and
Right.
it's like it can't keep up with the speed he's moving.
Right.
So it like knows like, well, his pants are a different shade than his face.
I like that Buster
And it's trying to
stumped the
track them in
robots,
real time. Yes. No, the robots cannot fucking keep up with him.
much like all of his potential brides.
Yes.
Right.
This is the thing. I'm just pulling up JJ's dossier, so I have the specific name here. But there was the other director hired first to do the film.
Yes. It was the other director's name, of course, was John McDermott,
Who wrote the play, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Am I
And-
right about this? Hold
No, but he maybe directed the play. I think Roy
Okay.
McGuire
Yes.
wrote, or McGrew or something wrote the play, but John McDermott had been involved, and
This was him trying to
Buster-
rein Buster in of here's material I'm bringing to you, here's a director, just plug in as the actor.
right.
Mm.
And Buster had no interest in doing that. And after a week of filming, McDermott leaves and says, "You are the star and the producer. Your version will be the one used. You're wasting thousands of dollars having me on this picture."
Ugh, which is probably just what Buster wanted.
Probably.
Buster told a
basically
version of the story
grouched
that
him out.
was basically disputed by everyone else, where he was wasting so much money on the film that they fired him. But it sounds like
he
McDermott,
refers to McDermott as a local screwball.
Ooh.
another great term.
And he says, right, that he was the one wasting money because he was like, hiring extra writers and making
Right.
fancy sets, and he got fired. But for the record, almost all Buster Keaton biographers do not believe his story. Right.
Now,
Okay.
pure conjecture on my part, but McDermott did shoot, he shot like 1 week,
Okay.
including the whole opening color section, which is pretty technically complicated with the transitions with the car and everything.
Right. It's got the whole
Yeah.
thing with the car.
Right.
I like the car transitions.
Oh, it's
They're fun.
very cool and was
Yeah.
something that was like orchestrated by Buster, planned out this whole gag on a technical level, but this other guy had to direct. It does almost feel like maybe Buster made the first week of filming as complicated as humanly possible.
Right, to like break this guy.
Where it's like, well, this is the one section we'll shoot in color. And it's like a very complicated technical thing where the car has to keep on landing at the exact same space to have this guy be like, you know what, fuck it, whatever, go off, do your movie.
Now,
That sounds so fun to like, if you know you're going to be successful, to be
be a
like, you have
stinker.
1 week to be a little stinker and break this person's spirit.
Right.
Oh, man. I wish I was meaner. That sounds so fun.
Also, they're not going to
Sounds
shut the movie down. Like there's
No.
there's an audience for Buster movies. He's got to deliver 2 a year.
Mhm.
He thought he could put this thing on the fucking rails.
now Buster wanted Marion Nixon to play
Okay.
his sweetheart.
Mhm.
The character's name is Mary. But she was busy filming a movie called Let Her Buck. I just had to say that out loud.
Can I just
Just
throw
love
out?
the name of these old silent movies.
Oh,
Let Her
sure.
Buck.
I hope it shows up.
2
again in
for
the
Let Her
box
Buck,
office game.
please.
You know, we're in a
Sorry, which was a Western starring someone called Hoot Gibson.
Hoot Gibson
Hoot.
and Letterbuck.
Yes. A rodeo champion who transitioned to silent movies. I just love back in the day
Yeah.
where they were like, I don't know what movies are going to be. Maybe rodeo stars should be in charge, right?
Do you
Just
think
try
people
everything.
responded to that the same way we do now, where it's like, did you see this fucking Paramount Plus movie starring a TikTok star?
right. We're like, God.
That's
getting
our
the
Hoot
rodeo
Gibson.
clowns
That's
in.
our Hoot Gibson.
Hoot
Yeah.
Gibson.
Look, obviously, culturally, there's an ongoing conversation where we're re-examining things, especially as they pertain to gender roles and such, right?
Okay.
And you feel like increasingly people are trying to phase out boyfriend and girlfriend, these gendered terms.
Mhm.
I've always had a problem with partner because it feels so formal.
Feels too businesslike.
It sounds like you have an S corp with
Exactly.
someone. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a real
And I'm
thing.
just realizing,
You want
just call
sweetheart.
everyone a sweetheart.
But
My
I-
sweetheart.
My sweetheart.
My sweetheart.
That's nice.
That's fucking gender neutral.
Don't yell at me. I
David!
don't care what you do.
Call your
David
wife
put
your
a-
sweetheart.
No. No, thank you.
I do. I had someone who called me their partner once, and I was like, "That's got to stop.
Yeah.
That's got to stop."
I like
It
the
is a little
intent
chilly.
behind it.
Yeah.
But it's chilly. It either feels like
It feels and not for everybody. If a partner worked for you, great. For
Absolutely.
me, it felt very businesslike.
Yes.
It felt like we're splitting every bill, and it
Yes.
freaked me out.
right.
Some people try lover, but I always find that somewhat
Well, that's a
That's
little.
too much.
You're telling me too
Obnoxious.
much.
That's-
And significant other is a little too long.
Mm-hmm.
You want something a little snappier.
Yeah, when you're saying significant other, now it feels like you're being euphemistic. My significant. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right,
right.
all right.
I like sweetheart.
Fine. You go find
so
yourself
Buster's-
a new sweetheart.
Buster's got a sweetheart at the beginning of this movie.
Troll Tinder for sweethearts.
I will. Looking for a sweetheart.
Looking for a sweetheart. Yeah, so
Just a
Ruth-
Buster looking for his sweetheart.
That's a very chilling Tinder description.
Yes.
I agree. That would make me throw my phone in the ocean. Ruth Dwyer
Uh-huh.
is the lady who plays Mary.
Okay.
She
She's
had a long
interesting.
career.
Yeah, she like had a talent agency later.
Yes, they operated the Ruth Dwyer Agency in San Francisco
Mm.
Love that.
because she married a talent agent called William Jackie.
Mm.
But yeah, she's good. I mean, we do mostly find in these Buster movies the female roles are limited, like that they, like it's harder for them to pop.
Look, we're gonna get to it, but it is kind of a damning thing where you're like, Brown Eyes is probably the best screen partner he's ever had in any of his movies.
No, I
Brown
was
Eyes
like,
has
wow.
charisma out
In
the door.
performance, in amount of screen time given, narrative agency.
Not a dig to Brown Eyes at all. Or the
No, Brown Eyes
amounts-
is great, but you're like, there is no female co-star who is so lovingly like sort of
Buster Keaton is so much nicer to Brown Eyes than he is to any other
Yes.
woman he encounters.
right. You're like, this is his most romantic film.
It is. And I think that the chemistry is clearly there.
Undeniable.
It's beautiful.
Once again, this isn't backhanded.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it says a lot about how good their dynamic is. But yes, this is sort of the more off the rack.
And also she doesn't get to do anything fun in
No.
this movie, I feel like,
No.
because all the action does not involve her.
Right.
Buster makes this movie. He thinks it's a disaster.
Yes.
And they, he didn't like the climax. Insane.
Well, he felt like he didn't have an ending.
Right.
Oh.
And
I disagree.
This movie is basically
I don't know why he didn't like
No.
this movie.
Yeah.
Whatever.
this movie is basically 40% climax, right? It's like
Yeah.
60% set up for the climax, which is one of the most incredible sustained set
The
pieces.
climax is amazing, but I
Yeah.
like that it's also bifurcated, that like he's showing you all this very subtle little humor that he can
Yes.
do in the
Yeah.
first half,
Right.
all the little comedy of manners stuff.
Yes.
And then, you just blow it out for the last part. You get 500 ladies
Yeah.
in bridal veils
Right. Which was,
chasing him off a cliff.
this was the whole selling point of this movie. Like that was sold as if it was like Tom Cruise tying himself to the plane, right? Where it's
Right.
like you're going to see 500 women chase Buster Keaton at the end of this film. Like everyone knows what they're buying.
It is
Right.
literally
ticket for.
500 women. They hired 500 women.
Throw me in there.
It's absurd.
That is, it is. I feel like, I think you're totally right, Griffin, that it's like he's not the guy who does stuff. He's the guy who stuff happens to.
Right.
But it's like he can still do it. I feel like it shows some like range you don't
Absolutely.
see in other
But
movies.
it is telling that like it feels like the second half of the movie he's shaken off all the requirements of the
Yeah.
source material, and now he's like extended chase sequence in which I no longer have any agency and everyone is just doing stuff to me.
Chasing me.
Nature is turning on me and I'm just trying to survive.
I wonder how much the script changed from the. I'm assuming
Yeah.
considerably from the stage, because he blows through all like 7 chances
Yes.
Right.
in the space of like 2 minutes.
Right.
Yes.
I thought the whole premise, because
Of course.
that's the whole thing. The guy's like, all right, well, let's go to the country club. Who
Right.
do you know here?
Let's set up. So he goes after the thing is thrown to him and it's like, well, great, I got a sweetheart. I'll propose to her. And then when she realizes, oh, he's doing this just because of,
He clumsily is sort of like,
and this is great. What a relief.
I have to marry someone today. It might
Right.
as well be you.
Some fun underlining on the title cards. I
Yes.
was like, I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
well-
He
pop.
saps all the romance out of the situation with someone who would love to marry him, and in the process becomes totally turned off by him.
Right.
And so he goes with his partner and his new lawyer friend with the world's most sour puss to a country club,
Yes.
and his partner identifies.
No, his partner's just like, who do you know?
Right.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Right.
And he writes down
There's
7 names.
7 women.
So he's like, you got 7 chances.
Yes.
So I, like Jamie, figured, right, that's the rest of the movie.
The structure of the movie.
Scott Pilgrim style.
Exactly.
Right.
7 courtships, and they'll all go elaborately wrong.
Each
Instead, no,
8 minutes, a new chance.
he just whiffs all of them
Yeah.
in a row.
Yes.
And then in various funny ways. But then I also love that, like, even the hat check girl is like, forget it. You know, like even he tries anything.
This
at that point.
this hat check girl is fucking striking.
Yeah, she's
She's
hot.
beautiful.
I was like, what's her vibe is fascinating.
Mhm.
Aside from the fact that she's like beautiful, you're also like, she's not giving a comedy performance. She just seems like some cool, mean, tall lady.
I mean,
I
what a
believe her
dream.
name is Eugenia Gilbert.
Yeah.
I want to point out the 5th chance is Bartine Burkett,
Okay.
who is his romantic interest in The High Sign, his
Oh.
short film.
Yes.
And another one is, I forget which one is Fatty Arbuckle's wife.
Roscoe's wife. Yes.
Roscoe Arbuckle's wife.
Trying
I'm
to
sorry.
do
Yes, no, I know,
fine.
you're right. Doris, or no, fiance, I should say. Doris Dean,
Yes.
who is the 2nd chance.
Jean Arthur is also the receptionist at the country club.
The
Yeah.
great Frank Capra star,
Yes.
or, a million different
But
things.
he blows through the 7 chances so quickly, and then basically he gives you a bonus 7 where the guy is so desperate that he's just throwing like swings anywhere he can. You get
I
the
loved that sequence. I thought it was great.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
I kind of love this almost as much as the Avalanche and all that stuff.
And I feel like that's part of like what, I don't know, what makes Buster Keaton so fun is like he'll just let someone like laugh in his face. That's great.
Yes.
Most movie stars will not let you laugh in their face without some sort of like protective infrastructure.
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
can
he's
be
great.
completely next.
He's got no
Yeah.
ego, and his partner. See, this is the problem with saying partner in a romantic situation. Is I'm like, this guy is a partner.
his partner.
His
Literally, the
business
name of the
partner.
character is his
Right,
partner.
exactly.
Thomas Barnes, T.
Yes.
Roy Barnes.
I got confused when I looked at that on the Wikipedia. I was like, wait, what were they using that then? I was like,
Right,
his partner and his sweetheart?
his partner. Yes. Who
I
is
do love that these movies, the character names are just like our hero, her dad.
Friendless.
Yes, well, Friendless, one of the all-time great character names.
Oh.
But there's that scene where he's like, Jesus Christ, this isn't so fucking hard. Let me show you. And his partner goes over to like try to propose to a woman, and she immediately is in.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
And
and
then-
then he's like, no, not for me, for my friend. And then he points to
Oh,
old Snitz.
Snitz.
Yeah, who gives the
Snitz is
look,
going
wiggles
like,
the eyebrows.
Right.
I
Yeah.
cheered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
it's
cheered too.
Great.
Great
Because that's the
shot
other
of
thing.
Snitz.
Snitz is like just doing his job. I need to track down this grandson and like tell him the terms of the inheritance, right?
But then he just stays.
He gets so roped in. He becomes the third like friend, right?
Right.
And Snitz is now just like, can I get the runoff? Like,
right. Yeah.
I want that for Snitz.
right. Snitz
It would be
basically
nice.
hopes that the first chance will go well, so he has a shot with the remaining 6 chances.
If this was
Yeah.
like an 8-reeler and not a 6-reeler,
Yeah.
I think Snitz would get a lady or whatever. There'd be some
Absolutely.
subplots.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Snitz's character, and it would be like, I don't know, Snitz's character is pervert coded.
Yeah.
But in a
I
way
would say
that
yes.
I found delightful.
In the 20s way of like, what am I supposed to do about this guy?
He's a real ankle starer. Like,
This
oh,
is-
that's our Snitz.
This is a movie I very faintly remember because I saw it on a plane over 20 years ago when it came out. But you guys know this was remade as a New Line rom-com with Chris O'Donnell and Renee Zellweger
No.
called The
Wait,
Bachelor.
Yes, I remember The Bachelor, of course.
It is a direct remake. It is credited
because
as
it
such.
has
It ends with the chase.
him being chased by all the ladies. It's the same premise. It's
Yes,
if
it's
he doesn't
the
get
exact
married.
same premise.
Oh my God.
Oh,
And
let me
I
find a poster for
believe
you.
Artie Lang plays the Snitz role.
No.
Is my memory.
Oh, that's
Wait, let's
brutal.
see.
What
Okay,
year
so
would that have been?
It's
2000
1999.
Oh,
As,
Wow,
the,
okay.
as the century ended,
Yeah.
Chris O'Donnell stepped into the role of The Bachelor. I can tell you that Artie Lang plays a character called Marco,
Okay.
and that Ed Asner plays a character called Sid Gluckman.
I think he's the
Oh.
grandfather.
Possibly. Mariah Carey also appears to be in this film.
Interesting. My memory is that there is a deathbed scene in which Ed Asner says to him is his final words,
Mhm.
I will give you this amount of money if you marry someone.
You have to be The Bachelor.
Yeah.
Here they... And so Renee is his girlfriend.
His sweetheart.
And
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
but the
marry,
poster
marry his
is-
sweetheart.
They
Chris
similarly
O'Donnell as
advertise this movie
Buster
as
Keaton. He's trying to Buster Keaton with his head.
an insane choice.
really
But-
taking a big swing on
Okay.
Chris O'Donnell.
This is the thing with Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Anytime he was put in a movie
Yeah.
after Batman, you're kind of like, what were they thinking? And I'm like, well, what's he supposed to do? The poor, bland glass of milk. He looks nice.
Right. And now he's on season 800 of
I
NCIS
know,
Los Angeles. He's doing great.
He's
fine.
found his spot.
But it's just so funny in that era to not be like, we should remake this with Jim Carrey.
Right.
We should remake this with
Yes.
Ben Stiller.
You would think that Jim Carrey probably was smart enough to be
Right.
like, I don't need to do a Buster Keaton remake. Like
Yeah.
that's
Right.
cursed
to
territory.
do it with someone
That's
who's
looking
like,
into the snowman behavior.
Yes. To do it with someone who's more of a romantic lead than a comedy lead was a bizarre choice. And my memory was also like that was sort of Renee had been kind of quiet post Jerry Maguire, and that was sort of her comeback movie.
Ugh.
Yeah, Marco. I'm trying to figure out who Marco Artie Lang's character is.
Yeah.
It looks like he's just kind of the friend
Right.
or whatever. He's the sidekick. But as in Seven Chances, after he strikes out with everyone,
Yeah.
they put an ad
Yes.
in the paper,
Uh-huh.
basically saying if you marry this man by 7 o'clock, you will be a millionaire. You will
Yes.
share in his fortune,
Mhm.
and so show up to the church
Yeah.
in bridal wear.
Mhm.
Which honestly is not necessary. One
No.
does not need to wear a
No.
veil to get married.
Yeah, it makes for a good visual.
It also made me remember how frequently newspapers were published.
Evening edition.
yeah.
Absolutely right.
Evening edition. They've got full copy. I read the whole article. All he needs is a bride. And then I learned what his grandfather's name was. It was Jabez Shannon.
Well,
Wow.
Um,
Jabez?
Jabez.
Okay.
can we go through some of just before we get onto the chase, some of the quick rejection gags
Go
at the
ahead.
country club?
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about Jamie. Were you a Mad Magazine person?
I was a light Mad Magazine
Okay.
person. I didn't have a lot of access to them.
This is obviously post Buster, and I have to imagine it was some influence. But Sergio Aragonés, the great cartoonist, one of
Recently.
the all-time great. No, he's still alive.
Oh, he's the one who
Al
just died.
Jaffe
Al
just
Jaffe
died.
just died.
He
Right,
of the
yes,
Fold-In.
Yes, he did.
Sergio Aragonés is one of those guys where you're like, how is he still alive?
He's still alive. He's
Still
85 years
working.
old.
Yes.
He's wow, good for him.
But he used to do these, it would be called like a mad look at,
Mm-hmm.
and it was his style, which was so beautiful. And it would be like 3-panel strips of like a mad look at the DMV, and they would
Okay.
never have word bubbles. And so it would all be this kind of like behavioral physical comedy of some misunderstanding of like a basic everyday situation that people understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this sequence is a lot of that because you're not doing like Buster stunts and gags.
Yeah.
You're doing like him following the woman up the staircase and immediately walking back down. You're doing him going in the phone booth and coming out and saying like wrong caller.
Right.
You know, there's the great gag where he like saddles up next to the woman reading the newspaper, and then she folds the newspaper down. You see she has the baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you obviously end it with the gag where he feels like he's finally found a bride, and he finds out
And
she's
they're like-
a little girl.
Yes.
Which was such like a weird Clara Bow moment where you're like, oh
Yes.
yeah, this 24-year-old woman is of course 11.
But I think
Baby
it's
face.
it's kind of funny as a commentary on like, a lot of these other stars. In the
I
film.
was like, yeah, I was like, who does he think he is?
But
Charlie
also,
Chaplin.
Even at that time, 100 years ago,
Work the bag, Jamie.
a lot
Come
of
on.
these
Yeah.
it girls were kind of like infantilized.
Yeah, sure.
You know, you have like little Cupid doll bow in your hair,
Baby
and
face
it's like
with the bow. Yeah.
right. The whole thing is, it's like a 22-year-old who acts like an 11-year-old. Where to call it out is kind of funny to me, even if the gag is a little uncomfortable.
No, but
It's uncomfortable
it's
from
a
the right
solid
side of
gag.
the
It
fence.
felt
Yeah.
self-aware enough. Yeah, when
Yes.
they handed her, I mean, unless I was like misunderstanding the self-awareness of it, when they handed her like the baby doll,
Yes.
I was like, this is clearly an adult woman.
Yes.
Yes. I liked it. Yeah, they still do that over in the CW.
Yes.
Make 30-year-old women act like little babies.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'll watch it.
The Bachelor still exists, of course. Not
Yes.
not Chris O'Donnell. What if you made Chris O'Donnell the Bachelor though,
They should do.
as a callback?
David?
Yeah.
You like to wake up early.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of made to, but I do like it.
You wake up even earlier than you're made to wake up.
I suppose so. I wake up around 6.
You start your day about 24 hours before I do.
Sure.
So you wake up around 6, you have some breakfast, you drop your daughter off at school, you go to the gym, you do some laps in the pool.
That's true.
Then you got a couple hours to kill before you even have to come into Blank Check HQ to record an app.
Okay. Sort of laying out my day for me here, but what does this have to do with anything?
Well, it's not quite lunch yet. It's that dreaded 11 a.m. feeling.
Oh no!
That after breakfast, not quite lunch. You've
I'm
been eating
hungry!
healthy. You try not to nom 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 on a donut.
All right, so should I write nom 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 on a donut?
No, you shouldn't.
What should I get?
You need to get some items from our friends at nuts.com.
You want to get nuts?
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. You can also get gummy bears. You can get olives.
You certainly can. They've got
Popcorn.
a wide selection. They've got something for everyone. They've
Saltwater
got sweets.
taffy.
They got pantry staples like specialty flowers.
Sesame sticks.
They have it all.
Chocolate covered espresso beans. David, what did you get? What was your nuts.com box?
I got it was the dried mangoes, it was the chocolate covered gummy bears, it was almonds, it was pistachios, all kinds of great stuff. I'm gonna do another order. I think.
I am too, because here's what I love. They offer plenty of gluten-free options, organic choices, and other diet-friendly products. Whether you're looking for something sweet, savory, or need to stock up on everyday cooking essentials, you're bound to find something to try. They really do. A lot of companies like to say this. Nuts.com really does have something for everyone.
Also, of course, you can opt into auto deliveries,
Or you can do a la
hassle-free.
carte. You got your options.
And they've got good gluten-free stuff,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, diet-friendly products,
And by the
whatever.
way, if you're startup at home, they also sell directly to businesses. If you're a small business owner, you want to get nuts in the office place?
It's true. Look, right now, nuts.com is offering new customers a free gift with purchase and free shipping on orders of $29 or more at nuts.com/check. So go check out all of the delicious options at nuts.com/check. You'll receive a free gift and free shipping when you spend $29 or more. That's nuts.com/check.
Let's get nuts.
Okay.
They put the ad in the newspaper.
Well, and also, of course, parallel to all this,
Yeah.
Mary has been sort of persuaded to reconsider and written a note agreeing to marrying Jimmy.
By
Yes.
her mom. I was
Yes.
trying to I guess I was just really clinging to this scene because I was like, ooh, let's see what happens between the mother and daughter. But I wasn't clear on whether the mother was like, oh, you should give him another chance because she should, or because she wanted $7 million. I would prefer an evil
I think
mom.
it's the former. I think the mom is like, you guys just need to talk to. She's stressing communication, right?
Right.
She's
Yes.
like, look, he was weird. It's fine. I don't think she's after the money.
But this is the thing.
I
She's
I
after her
she
daughter's
were.
happiness.
A thing that I
I mean,
think
I would
this
be
movie
after
taps into in a good way is like as someone who has spent the majority of the last 4 years being violently single, the thing that people such as the people who co-host and produce your podcast say to you all the time is just like, well, it happens when you're not looking for it, right?
Oh, kill me. Yeah.
Right. You get stuck in this catch-22 where you're like, I would like to not be single. And it's like, well, when you're putting that out there, people aren't into it. Right? So it's like,
Yeah.
this guy has a girlfriend. The second he's like, I need to get married, he totally turns her off.
Mhm.
The second there's like this desperation, he cannot get anyone to give him time of day.
But
He's just like radioactive.
I can relate with spontaneously breaking up with someone because they emphasize the wrong word in
Of
a
course.
sentence.
Oh, of course.
So I do see where Mary is coming from.
Yes.
The underline
He
was
hit the
placed
sum. He hit
incorrectly.
the sum all wrong.
Wait.
But I do
But it
like
could have been a discussion.
I do like that, like, in his 7 chances, his strikeouts, it's less like he's fucking up really hard and more like no one wants to touch him. And there's the great bit at the end where when he thinks he's finally like panned out with the woman who turns out to be the little girl, the other 7 women have all ganged together and are just watching him fail and like applauding. They become friends through hating him.
He really should have. I guess he only has the day to do it.
Yeah.
But he really should have
Branched out.
taken a walk around the block or
Right.
something.
Gone to a
And
second location.
Yeah, yeah.
It is such a fun nightmare scenario to watch play out and he's so good at
Yeah.
like being humiliated for a second, but then just walking out of the scene and continuing to do the thing.
Not realizing that he's basically becoming like West Elm Caleb or whatever his name was in real time.
Oh my God.
They're all sharing notes, you know?
Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone who has laughed at him has started a union
Right.
in the last 45 minutes.
Yes.
And they're like marching for it's just, it was such a fun sequence. And I'm like, I have to assume that is the entire play
yeah.
squeezed into 10 minutes.
I think basically
Yes, certainly
yes.
the play did not have an avalanche sequence
No,
in it.
And that's a shame.
It's
It
so,
should have.
It's
They
so
should have
funny to think
Phantom of the
about.
Opera style every night just
Yeah.
caved in the ceiling or something.
It's so funny to think about like buying plays in particular. Like I understand they were adapting like great works of literature.
No, but that was
in the
yeah.
silent era, but to be like, here's a hit farce from Broadway. These things that are so dialogue based,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're like, now you're gonna like translate into a medium where you have to cut the dialogue down to a minimum. I feel like this movie has more intertitles than most of his features for that reason. And then he's basically
Does
like,
have more, yeah.
let me do like an abridged version of the plot for like 30 minutes and then let me do some Buster Keaton shit.
Right. But initially, they couldn't figure out any good chase gags, apparently. They faded on the chase,
Yes.
like in the middle of it.
Yes.
The first test screening, apparently, the audience was also not really that into it, but
Right.
the audience did laugh during a point where a few rocks dislodged and rolled down the hill with him.
Accidentally.
And so he was like, let's go back and throw so many rocks down the
Yeah.
hill. Like, let's boost up all the rocks. That'll be what we do.
But that's the great fucking like Buster chain of cartoon logic where it's like, you know, he goes to the church in defeat, right? I failed.
Yes.
Takes a nap in a pew.
I really like that. Yes. That
Yes.
he's going to the church just as like, this is a place of mourning for me.
Right.
Like, I can just be sad here.
Then they all start showing up. You
They
see
do.
them slowly come in. They're all holding a newspaper with his face on it. They're sitting next to him. It takes a moment for anyone to even realize, oh, this is the guy. Then they start like fighting over his hand. Then they start swarming him. He runs out. You get this amazing fucking wide shot, this like God's eye view shot of the street where he is slowly walking away and the mob is like just growing and growing and grow him behind him and it just never ends.
Right.
The way that scene is paced is so, it was, I was thinking about at the end of Titanic where they pull out and everyone's
Yeah.
dying. You're like, it's that, but with brides. But like, how does, I don't know, just like watching how he paces his performance in that scene to match with the shot is unbelievable.
He
It's
holds
so good.
off on running until the last possible moment.
Yeah.
He's
Really good
trying
at
to
that.
just be chill.
Yeah.
And then
Just
it's like
sort of
he's
like, I'm
sort
just
of like
walking, I'm
picking up
walking.
the pace. He doesn't want to make it. He wants to play oblivious.
Mhm.
And then you get into this like now it's like a running of the bulls. Now they're following him everywhere, right? They're invading everything. But then there's this point, and you have the great gag where they walk by the man building the brick wall,
Oh, yeah.
and the women all each grab a brick to attack him.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so they deconstruct the brick wall. But then at a certain point, he like shakes them, but he's still stuck in this chase sequence because like now bees are after him. Now boulders are after him. Like now the whole world is just trying to get him.
Mhm.
And this thing with the boulders is like insane.
Oh, it's so good. It's so scary. And they hold those shots for so long.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
It's I mean, I don't know how he does any of this stuff. I mean, he says, when I have a gag that spreads out,
Mhm.
I hate to jump a camera into close-ups, which is sort of the classic Buster thing, right? He has this very sort of widescreen filming style that is very conservative in a way. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't really mess with anything. He just lets you watch these very long takes. But I just feel like most people just would not be able to do that, right?
No,
they would
I mean-
have to cut into it because like they
Yeah.
can't actually outrun 100 boulders for a camera
Right.
without dying.
The only cut that I think I like noticed that felt there was like during the tree jump, there was some sort of cut, or maybe I was watching the wrong YouTube.
No. There definitely is a
Yeah.
cut
There
there.
was,
Yes,
there
where he
was.
jumps onto the tree
Yes.
and then whatever. Then we get this gag where the tree just goes
Right. Because they
Yeah.
probably
Which is
go
great.
from a real tree to a rubber tree in the
Fake
cut.
tree. Yeah.
He's
Love a
got
rubber tree.
this other quote here that JJ pulled up. I like long takes and long shot. Close-ups hurt comedy. I like to work full figure. And then JJ put in bold, all comedians want their feet in, which is such a good way of putting it. But that, like, when you get to the point where which is clearly the reshoots, where they've now created all these paper mache boulders and they have like 800 of them, and they're all like Indiana Jonesing down the hill. And he finds that sort of like little alcove in the hill where he can hide and the boulders go over him.
Mhm.
And it's just holding on that angle for so fucking long, and you're seeing them like narrowly miss him. And then they start to build up, and they're getting closer and closer to his head, and his back is turned, and there's no cut, and you're like, he's just hoping that none of them hit him.
He doesn't know how many have built up.
No.
Like, it's so crazy.
And even
Yeah.
as a director, it's like, well, he can know what they planned, but by design, he's not looking in that direction.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's visually happening behind him.
And there was I watched that scene a couple different times, and there's like 3 times where it really does seem like there's inches between
Yes.
him getting like
Yes.
it's
It also
unbelievable.
feels like the boulders have become sentient.
yeah.
Like the boulders feel like the bees or whatever, where they're like circling him. They're trying to
Mhm.
get him.
Oh, it's so good.
Um,
And then,
How
and then
did
just
Chris O'Donnell, they didn't hit him with the boulders.
no,
No.
instead he's sort of like, and it looked like San Francisco to me.
yes.
He's in the streets of San Francisco. He jumps on a bus at one
It's not
point.
even the best movie that takes place in San Francisco in 1999.
No, not at
It's
all.
probably George of the Jungle.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Great
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what? That's someone who could have fucking done this.
Oh, yes, he could
If
have.
you had done 99
especially right
Fraser-
around then.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's that exact same movie, but it's Fraser and Zellweger.
I mean, look, this movie looks like a dud. Maybe even Brendan couldn't have saved it, but Brendan Fraser
Yeah.
at that time has more of the Buster Keaton thing of you're just sort of like, what is this guy? Like
Right.
his face is so interesting.
But
He's
also
such a
similarly
physical
had
specimen.
that thing where it's like, you're really hot, and yet I can believe that it takes people a moment to realize
Yeah.
you're romantically viable.
Because he's genuinely weird.
Yes.
like, yeah.
Right. And he had that like odd sort of man-child innocent thing.
But like, just this movie is directed by someone called Gary Sinor. It's just not a thing.
That's not true.
It is.
Gary Sonorn doesn't exist.
I don't know what to tell you. The Bachelor. Let's see how much money it made.
Wow.
$36.9 million. These days, if a movie for grown-ups made that,
you kidding
people
me?
would be shooting confetti in the streets.
Maybe
Yeah.
if maybe it's a Wikipedia hoax, the Gary Sinor thing.
Gary Sinor.
There's a
Gary
lot of
Sinor.
Wikipedia hoaxes.
But then you just have the wrap-up ending where he finally makes it back to his sweetheart, and he realizes he's missed the deadline by like 5 minutes.
Yeah. She's been sitting in I mean, she's like stationary for most of the movie, but she
Yeah.
comes back.
He has a line basically like, "What's about to happen in my life is
Right.
so miserable, I wouldn't want to bring anyone else into it."
I was just assuming the ending was going to be they don't get the money, they like each other anyway,
Yes.
they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So I was kind of annoyed where he's like, no, don't marry me.
Yeah.
And he leaves. And I get his argument of like, yeah, I'm about to, be put in a debtor's jail or
Yeah.
something. And then of course the real twist is, the watch was fast. We can get married to be rich.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I get you want to send everyone out on a high note. I get it. But I still felt like Mary didn't get quite enough of like oomph at the end there.
No, because
Yeah.
she has the agency to say like, "I don't care about the money."
Right. And instead
Right.
she's just kind of like, okay.
The money kind of ruined this whole thing.
Right.
Let's
Like,
get
it's
that
the
out
whole
of the
fucking
picture.
problem. It's
Yeah.
why you were being chased.
Her
Yeah.
only like agency moments are pretty like immediately undercut both times. Where the first time she's like, "Well, no, if you want to just marry someone, then don't marry me. Fuck
Right.
you." And then 2 seconds later, her mom's like, "Don't be a bitch, Mary.
Right.
Go talk to him."
Be a
And she's
nice
like, "Okay,
girl."
I'll go marry him right now." And then she's like, "I don't care about the money." And then it's like, "Well, you're getting the money." And it's like, "Okay, well, fine."
I mean,
thought that
which,
there was
fine.
when did I mean, I don't know. I'm like I didn't go into this movie expecting a transformative feminist text.
Sure.
But when did I had like a national treasure thought at this point where I was like, is it going to be a daylight savings time thing? But I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
When was daylight savings time? When did that start? And is
David?
it over?
When did daylight savings time when did America adopt daylight savings
Yes.
time?
And did it ever really end?
Well, no. What do you mean? We still
I
do
feel
it,
like
don't
people
we?
try to vote it
Yes.
away
Well-
all the time.
Well,
but I don't
the
know if this ever
Senate almost
happened.
apparently almost by mistake voted to outlaw it,
Yeah.
and everyone was like, "Yes, enough of this weirdness."
Yeah.
But then it never got any further
I
or whatever.
fucking wish they would.
Well, as a parent, I will say it is, especially for a young child, it is very annoying to deal with that because kids do not understand that time is now shifting.
Right.
Because it
like-
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't. The United States adopted daylight saving in 1918.
Okay.
So it's brand new. At
It
this
would have been
time.
topical.
Would have been a great,
Yeah.
great twist.
It almost feels like that could be the setup of an entire Buster movie. It's like daylight savings, and it's a guy who's off by an hour on everything.
And his movies are an hour.
Yeah.
It would be perfect.
Right. 1 hour wrong.
It's the extra hour. He's existing out of time.
Yeah.
Let's play the box office game for this one now.
Okay.
Griffin.
Good. Smart.
I feel like right.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
So-
Smart.
Jamie, you may remember we played the box office game. We, try to guess the top 5.
I remember where I was in 1997. I think about what was playing at the multiplex.
And you might think like, oh, it's 1925. Surely there's no box office data for this. There is.
Wrong.
All right, now where is it? Now I have to load it.
Now you have to
Just
load it
I
up.
have to load my Kindle.
And Jamie, I need to warn you. I've been killing these 5 out of 5. Know them all.
Okay.
Wait, what
So
was,
I'm about to alpha.
what was
fuck
the name
out
of
this game.
That's fine, I
potato and?
Oh, Potassium Potemkin. Or
Yes, that
whatever.
was it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like you find these movies where it's like, oh yeah, the nation's favorite like Yiddish comedian
Yes.
and is mixing it up with an Irish comedian.
It was
for
a
this
double
one.
act. That was Irish comedian, Jewish comedian, and I want to
Okay.
buy the remake rights to do it with Barry Keoghan.
Oh, that would be.
I think we could be the new Potash and Potemkin or whatever their names are.
It's
the
something
IP
like that.
might be public domain at this
It
point.
almost
oh,
certainly
definitely.
There
is.
you go.
So this film opened in March 1925, Griffin.
Okay. Spring
and,
release.
and
okay.
it's on my list. It's charting. It's opening big
Who?
to $60,000.
Humongous.
Wow.
Number 2 at the box office. Not
Okay.
number 1 though.
Not number 1. Number 1 a holdover?
No, the number 1 is also new.
Fuck.
And it's got a great name. It is a lost film.
Okay.
We cannot watch it anymore. But you probably still know it, right? I assume.
Is it London After Midnight?
No, I'm joking. There's no way you would know this.
I
It
would
is
know
directed
this.
by Henry King, a famous director,
Okay.
Oscar-winning director
Okay.
of the early years.
Is it an adaptation of anything?
No, it has an absolutely bananas name. I don't know. There's no plot here. It stars Alice Terry and Orville Caldwell, and so you must know that the answer is
Don't mind if I do.
Sackcloth and Scarlet.
Well.
Sackcloth?
Correct.
And Scarlet.
And Scarlet. Here they are.
Oh, Sackcloth is a guy.
I guess so.
They look cool.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a spaceman.
Yeah.
Don't know what that's about.
Nope.
Anyway,
Lost.
that's number 1. It's
Okay.
beating out 7 Chances by $2,000.
Tight.
7 Chances opening number 2. Now,
Yeah.
the next movie.
It's weird to think that $2,000 was a difference of like 5 million people.
right. Next movie is a romantic comedy.
Okay.
Looks like sort of a high society romantic comedy. Starring Doris Kenyon and Lloyd Hughes.
Okay.
Of course.
Yes.
It's got a great title.
It's called
Based,
Keep Your Gloves On.
the Los Angeles Times said it was well above the average in many of its scenes.
Huh?
That's on the poster.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the Los Angeles Daily News says that it tugs at the heartstrings. And the poster says, of course, it's a first national picture.
Wow.
The film is called If I Marry Again.
Hey,
Okay.
I almost could have guessed that title.
You probably could have.
Yeah.
Los
Starring
Angeles.
Doris Kenyon. And it looks like, she's going to figure it all out.
Is that how film critics wrote then? Or is that genuinely a very light endorsement? Above average
I
in
can't
many
tell
scenes?
if it's a neg or not. Like, yeah, it's a little above average. I don't know. What do you want from me?
All the reviews I've been reading from these Keaton films at the time are like that.
Right.
Really?
They're
Okay.
like, ultimately, a film that plays in front of your eyes.
Well, it's just like when you watch like sports footage from the 50s
Yeah.
of someone doing something absolutely insane. And the announcers are like, yes, and he's done it. And the Boston Celtics will win. Like, they
Yes.
sound barely excited about something,
An
legendary.
above average picture. Film was always in the camera and
Babe
running
Ruth
at the
has
right time.
vaporized a man with his baseball. All right. Okay.
Yes.
Number 4
Uh-huh.
is a comedy based on a play.
Okay.
Starring Richard Barthelmess and
Hmm.
Mary Hay.
Is it a play I would know? Is it a play
No.
that's still in?
No, but
No.
it was written by Oscar Hammerstein II. Famously later became a great composer. Now the poster says it's a picture not to be missed.
Okay.
And of course, it's a first national picture once again.
Of course.
It's called New Toys.
Wait a second, David. You didn't even let me guess. I was going to say New Toys.
Oh, you're right. You got it. New
You
Toys.
turned the screen around before I even had the chance to tell you I knew it
You're
was
not
called.
gonna get
What's New
these.
Toys about? That sounds like my kind of movie.
Let's see. It's a guy gets tickets to an amateur performance from his fiance as she sails for Europe, but then he falls in love with someone else, and they live in a Harlem flat and have a baby. But then the old girlfriend comes back, and there's sort of a love triangle. And then it looks like someone might have killed themselves, but then everyone is happy at the end.
Now that's a new toy.
New toys.
Toy,
All right,
yeah.
number 5.
Stink lack of toys in that fucking plot synopsis.
Maybe the kid has some toys. All right, number 5 is a
Okay.
comedy. A lot of comedies
Yeah.
based on a musical.
Okay.
That we know?
No.
Oh.
Starring Colleen Moore.
Colleen Moore, the great Colleen
It's about
Moore.
a girl from a foundling asylum who's a dishwasher in Paris.
Okay.
But then the Duke of Czechoslovakia, a made-up country,
They're Genovia.
yes, exactly, meets her, and I guess he's sort of trying to slum it. It's kind of like he's pretending to be not rich, and they fall in love, but then,
Sure.
it turns out he's rich.
Right. I think it's called From Soap to Silver.
It's called Sally.
Well,
And
wait
of
a
course,
second.
this is a First National picture.
Okay.
What's
Was
your
First National
question?
the Disney of their day, or are they just like
Fucking
owning the
apparently.
box?
She's got a classic flapper haircut.
I
you
was
know,
like,
sort
I
of-
just love her hair.
you
I
know.
guess the coat check girl.
She has the most
Yes.
severe flapper haircut.
Yeah. It feels sharper than the norm.
Yes.
She extra wouldn't fuck Buster Keaton.
Yes.
But that's what I like
Feels
about her.
modern.
And,
Yeah.
and in fact, when you Google Seven Chances, she's like the first picture that comes up. I think that scene
Yes.
Yeah.
is just sort of seared in people's memory. She's also so much taller
Much
than him.
taller. Yes.
Like she's so intense
yes,
looking.
I'm into it.
She's
I
got
have-
this great necklace that like goes all the way to her legs.
Uh-huh.
I have this thing sometimes where I watch a Buster Keaton movie and I'm like, oh my God, she's so pretty. I have such a crush on her. And then I remember like she probably died 7 decades ago. She is
Yeah.
so dead.
I have definitely had that feeling with these movies where I'm like, everyone is dead.
So dead.
Everyone,
Couldn't be
even
more
the
dead.
babies are dead.
Yeah.
Really, even the babies are dead.
It's
That's
100
true.
years old.
Yeah.
They're dead.
The
I-
people who saw these movies in theaters are dead.
It's always chilling to find out that, like, I mean, especially when you're younger, that like a formative crush of yours is dead.
Yes.
Sure.
Like, there,
Paul Newman.
Yeah.
I had a huge crush on Carl Anderson in
Mm.
Jesus Christ Superstar. He played Judas,
Yeah.
and my mom had to like break the news to me that he just died. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, like it was just.
Wow, he died in
brutal.
2004.
I
He
remember-
is hot. Damn.
Yeah, and he wears that
Oh, the
orange
red,
suit.
Yeah, the
Ooh.
jacket. Yeah, this is very
Unbelievable.
cool.
I remember
Loved him.
having that experience when I was young with Vincent Price and my mother having to tell me that Vincent Price died, and it felt really spooky. Because I was like watching Vincent Price shit all the time. And I was like, Vincent Price, one of our greatest living entertainers.
Right.
And my mom was like, he died 18 months ago. And I was like, it feels like something out of a Vincent Price movie. He's been dead this whole time. I, a 6-year-old, have been watching Vincent Price.
A dead man.
This is a walking skeleton? Is that what you're telling me? All right, let's talk about Go West.
Okay.
His follow-up to Seven Chances was supposed to be The Skyscraper,
Which this thing sounds so cool.
in which he's working on a skeleton structure of a new
Yes.
skyscraper above the ground.
Mhm.
There's a girl up there with him. Her old man doesn't know this. There's a lot of stuff with elevators, and then there's a strike where the boys walk off the job, and then him and the girl are like stuck up there.
That's the premise of the movie, basically, is they get stuck up at the top of scaffolding and can't figure out how to get down.
Wasn't that a movie that came out last year?
Yes.
there
What
was-
was it called? It was called
It's
like,
like Fall.
Yes.
Was it Up or Fall?
I think it was called Fall.
Something like
think it was
that.
There's
called
a Pixar movie called Up.
Yeah.
I forgot.
The Rock also made his skyscraper movie.
Yes,
I just
yeah.
like that this feels like a comedic Die Hard.
Yeah.
It feels like a cool landscape to use for
Yeah.
bits. And it feels like very 20s too. It's like skies that was happening all over the place.
And he gets so much good material out of like him fighting against modernity, like being
Sure.
kind of terrified by technology and shit like that.
Apparently they just couldn't crack the ending with that one. So they never did
They
it.
never solved how he gets down.
Right.
Right.
The technology did not yet exist.
But it
and the-
was, where's the story here? The writer, it was supposed
So,
to be Robert Sherwood.
Robert Sherwood,
Yeah.
who eventually wins 3 Pulitzer Prizes for drama, apparently.
Yes. At this
Oh.
time was just a Life magazine critic.
Right. Apparently ran into him years later, and Keaton like comes up to him and he says, "Don't worry, Buster, I'll get you down out of there." And then that's the last time they ever
Yeah.
talked.
Well, he said every time we saw him, he would just say, like, I'm going to figure out how to get you down from that
We'll
building.
do
Yeah.
it. Right. Okay.
Never solved it. Sounded like a cool movie. So instead, he comes up with a simple premise. What if I dress up like a cowboy?
Correct.
Someone said in our Reddit, I think, like the thing that's great about the Buster Keaton movies is every one of these titles feels like a perfect layup for a David. What if there was a blank?
Oh, I love What If There Was a Blank.
Right.
What if there was a wife?
Right.
Wife.
What if he go west?
What if he went west?
What if
What
you
if
went west?
what
Yeah.
if there was someone who went west?
Right.
So Okay, behind the scenes, what's going on right now? Joe Skank is getting wooed by United Artists, which is, of course, Charlie Chaplin and Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford's artists' own studio. They bring him over. Eventually, UA is going to distribute Buster Keaton movies as a result, but not these. Not this one.
No, this is still part of
Metro.
Yes. No Golden or Mayer.
Just Metro?
Just Metro.
Like the trains.
Yeah.
But that does mess up Buster's life. A lot of his writers start getting loaned out.
Yes.
Because of it. So when he's doing Go West, he doesn't have his usual stable of guys.
He's basically had the same team since the shorts on almost all of these.
Kind of a glaring lack of Schnitz as well. I mean,
there is no Schnitz.
Stood out to me. I'm glad Schnitz comes back.
He does show up again.
It's a damn shame. Not for Jamie, though.
Not for Jamie, but, we can check in with you later.
Corner,
yeah, if you want to swoop in on Schnitz.
I'll call it.
No, the big
Clyde
co-star
Bruckman,
here
Joe
is
Mitchell, Gene Havez were the main 3 gag writers he had on the previous features. And then the 2 new people he sort of fills in the room, Raymond Cannon, who was an actor who then became a gag man /
love to be a
scenarist,
gag man.
and Lex Neal,
sure,
who was a childhood friend.
Yes, but the big casting job on this movie obviously is Brown Eyes. He has to cast the cow, played by a cow named Brown Eyes.
Yes. Now this is what I love about this movie, where he basically, it feels like it gets at this thing of like, when we talk about his weird inscrutability, right? How hard it is to read Buster in any scene. It feels like he realizes, the only person who could really like hold their own comedically with me on screen is an animal who is incapable of speaking and impossible to figure out what they're doing.
Incapable of ego, too.
Right.
And yet, what a performer.
Incredible.
I mean,
I love when they cast non-actors in acting roles.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
An amateur actor,
Yes.
Brown Eyes.
Huge.
She was a beautiful creature, says Buster. She did not appear to be any more intelligent than any other Holstein cows. So they trained her. He would lead her around the studio on a rope. He would feed her carrots and other culinary delights for the bovines. That's how he puts it.
I never had a more affectionate pet or a more obedient one.
After a while, he could walk her through doors, walk her past bright lights. Only difficulty was when he sat down, she would try to climb into his lap.
But he like spent months with Brown Eyes of just like, my big swing for this movie is I'm going to get this cow to feel so comfortable around me that I can do anything.
And it works.
Well, but do you know what happened?
No.
Oh, no.
They get there, they film this movie in Arizona.
Correct.
The first week, she's acting bizarre.
Oh, yes, right.
Suddenly, it's like she was so obedient. She followed him anywhere, and suddenly she's like not doing anything. And I think they bring in a doctor or a vet to take a look.
They brought in a rancher.
Yes.
Okay.
And he said, your cow is in heat, and she won't be any use to you until she's over that.
She's got to get some, and she will not be able to focus on work until she does.
Wow.
And so they had to wait 10 days. Here is the quote from Buster Keaton, and it is a doozy of a quote. This is as good as Rosario Dawson referring to her shaved vagina as the general.
The general,
which came up in our trans episode.
Right.
The idea of how daily expenses would mount while we waited for that cow to get her mind off sex was dismaying. We had selected her for her unusual beauty and striking markings. She had been in too many scenes to start looking for another Holstein to double for her. I did the only sensible thing. I ordered her let out of the corral so she could find an affection and empathy-loaded bull for herself. I didn't read that quote wrong. It just felt like I was reading
affection and empathy.
Affection and empathy-loaded bull.
Yeah.
He was
love
just
that
like,
a cow got too horny and they had to stop the movie. That's so great.
and the Buster was like, "Fine, go fuck a bull. It's fine. I get it. Look,
but
we're
he
all
wants the best for her. He wants
Exactly.
an empathetic, bull to fuck.
But the funniest thing to think about is that you got Joe Skank, who's like in the middle of this career transition.
Right. He's jumping to this big studio.
Right. And he's getting fucking like memos. He's getting like telegrams or whatever that are like, Buster movie on day 5 of shutdown. Cal has still not gotten any. You know? And his quote was, that's Keat for you. If there's a costly way to make a movie, he'll find it. Like, he was resentful of like, of course the Keaton movie shut down so this cow can fuck.
He cast the horniest cow in Hollywood.
But the whole cast and crew just waited in the desert for like a week until the cow came back and was like chain smoking.
Because he's been building this relationship with this cow for months.
Yeah.
That's, I mean.
I
I
mean,
get it.
I love it. I love it. I
Did not.
I didn't either. It's so funny.
That rocks. There is, I mean, I feel like Buster Keaton pulls off successfully what many people on dating apps are trying to do with by leading with a picture of them and their dog.
Yes.
You know, they're trying to be like, I can build something
Right.
here.
I'm
And you're like, well,
empathetic. Yes.
Right.
that's
Loaded
not
with
even
empathy.
your dog,
But
and I
right.
can tell.
Yes, and anyone can do
Um,
that. You
yes.
see a friendless man walking around with a brown-eyed
Oh.
cow. You're like, there's something going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of friendlesses wandering, but not everyone has, the connection with the
No.
brown eyes.
No.
So here's just set up for this movie. This guy's name is Friendless.
Mhm.
He has no direction in life.
He's a drifter.
Yes.
He's got a picture of his mother.
Right.
That's about it.
He tries going to New York. He gets trampled.
I do like that. It's just 5 minutes of him being like, the big city is too big for me.
It's
a
such
little
a-
too east.
It's
Yeah.
such a good reveal too. Of you see like crowded hubbub New York City street, and then they cut in closer, and you realize he's underneath all the people.
It's funny. It's good.
And so he's like,
So he gets
enough
on
of
a train.
this. He sees this sort of vision of the statue pointing to go west.
Right.
He
And-
sells his whole life
He sells everything.
for just a big salami.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
And it's such a good,
It might be a really good salami.
I
Humongous.
guess,
It's the
but
biggest-
it's everything.
biggest fucking salami I've ever seen, just wrapped up, right?
Yeah.
In like wax paper or whatever. And you see the passage of time is conveyed only in how much salami he has left.
Right.
As he's riding the rails and the salami's going down and things are really dire, and he gets off, and then the movie goes, yeah, put him in some fucking chaps. And I'm like, immediately funny. Just putting him here on a ranch around animals. A thing I like about this movie a lot too, I think all the other actors in this section are really good. They underplay it greatly. They play it very straight, like they are in a traditional Western.
Right. Howard Truesdale plays the owner.
Yeah. But no one is sort
Um,
of doing like pantomime-y, jokey kind of stuff. It's like, no, these actually look like sort of like sandblasted, hard living ranch hands. And Buster doesn't belong here.
Cowboys.
Yes.
They're cowboys. They shot the film in real cowboy country too. I think.
Yeah.
There's some gritty realism to that.
I liked that Horace Greeley was the inciting incident to this. It's just so, like he sees the statue of Horace Greeley.
Yes.
And he's like, all right, cool.
I'll go where he's pointing.
Yeah. I liked, oh man, I did a ton of research on Horace Greeley a couple of years ago because he believed in like talking to ghosts.
Cool.
And so I was like, yeah, I mean, he's maybe not the best guy whose advice to take. He does believe you can talk to ghosts, but it worked out fine for Friendless. He made friend.
Some other Horace Greeley facts, of course. He actually coined the phrase "Go West, young man."
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I guess
It's on
that's
the
why he's
statue,
being paid
baby.
homage
Sure.
to, right? But I think of him mostly because he was the presidential candidate
Mhm.
for the Liberal Republican Party in 1872. He lost to Ulysses Grant, but he died before the electoral. Like he died in between the election and the inauguration.
Cool.
Mhm.
So he got 0 electoral college votes. They had to
Yeah.
instead just sort of throw him to other people
Yeah.
because they couldn't give him to a dead guy.
Yeah, that's wild.
And the
Yeah.
spiritualists were trying to get in touch with him about that for
Horace
some
wants
time.
you to throw your
Right.
votes too,
For
Jim Smith.
Some time.
Brown eyes. He's one of those guys where, like, I know he was very rich and very successful. Yet when you look at him, you're like, is he just like a homeless wizard? Like, what is
Right.
this? He's got a very weird look. This sort of wispy hair.
Yeah,
It does weirdly look like the kind of guy that Buster Keaton would listen to.
Yeah. And then let's also remember that America did recently elect a president who is a self-proclaimed genius
Who?
with bizarre hair
What are you talking
and incredibly normal vibes.
I wonder what Buster would make of that guy. No. Okay, so brown eyes. Anyway, so he's he's on the ranch.
Mhm.
He's there's a whole bit with barrels on the train car,
The
which I
barrels
kind of
episode.
enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then there's the milk scene, which
Mhm.
I think is really funny.
And I just love the energy of him constantly trying to earn the respect of these other men, because it feels like the woman in this picture is kind of drawn to him almost immediately,
Right.
but he's so obsessed with being seen as a genuine cowboy. There are all those sequences where they're all sitting around the table, like drinking and eating, and the second he sits down, they leave, you know?
Right.
He's
He's just not macho enough.
It's
He's not-
almost like made a joke of like how, I mean, it's like she is the love interest of the movie, but there's like
Yeah.
that big joke at the end where it's like he obviously cares more about brown eyes
Right.
and being a cowboy
Yes.
than about this like shoehorned in love interest.
yes, he seems kind of indifferent to her.
Yeah.
by and large.
Which again, I'm just like, maybe that's part of the appeal of Buster Keaton. Who knows?
Really hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In spite of like, he's so tired, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He is tired.
He's tired
He
and
remains
indifferent.
tired.
Sign me the fuck up.
But he's so fucking good with this.
Gives her a blanket.
Yeah.
Protects her from dogs.
Yes.
Mhm.
But I mean, I guess it sort of becomes like it adds to his uncoolness that
Yeah.
a cow is his friend.
Right.
Because this is a place that, I mean, the cows have to die.
He reminds me a little bit of Cody Schmidt-McPhee in Power of the Dog.
Right, where everyone's just kind of like, what's this guy?
the
Why are you
fucking
making
deal
a
with this?
paper flower?
What are you doing here?
This is Montana, man.
Yeah.
I like that he's kind of like he goes from city slicker to just being obsessed with the cow.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
He like is going out west with the dream of fitting the archetype of like the classic movie cowboy. And instead he becomes this weird cow freak.
I feel like the strongest, I mean, I really strongly emotionally responded to when he tenderly removed the rock from Brown Eyes' hoof. I was like, what? Oh, I loved it. They did a close up in spite of the rules.
No,
But you
it's
had
like,
to see it.
that's him knowing like when is it like super in fact impactful to cut in close.
Yeah. And it works.
Yeah.
Ugh.
There's that saying from this time of like drama happens in a close-up, comedy happens in a wide shot.
Sure.
Mhm.
And it's like he's cutting into the rock from the hook because that's drama.
It is.
Mhm.
That's the saddest moment in the movie.
There's also like a little romantic theme that will play when Brown Eyes is on screen. Sometimes there's like a little like it just gets. It's the most romantic the music got to me
Yes.
was when they're together.
What's with the music is sort of, it's hard to know what the actual music was for these
There
movies,
is
right?
no
There's lots of,
actual music.
I found a copy of Seven Chances on YouTube
Yes.
when I was checking for something.
Yes.
And it had a techno score.
Yes.
Someone
Wow.
had put like electronic music over it.
Yes.
Wow.
I guess you can do anything.
There was
That's
no
a cool
yes.
guy who did
Who
that.
did that? Yeah, that's a cool guy.
There
Yeah.
was no definitive like score intended for these movies at the time. I maybe someone will
Would
correct
there
me
be
on
a
one
guy
of
with a
them.
piano?
Yeah.
Right. I guess
Yeah.
that'd be a fun job.
And
You're kinda
now
like,
it's
the
like-
scene seems like, let's
know,
go up.
Like
sure.
basically, if you're watching it online through like legal means, renting, buying physical media, streaming
Yes.
services, whatever, you're almost always seeing what is it? They're basically the two different restorations. One of them is, I think, the Bologna restoration. One of them is Lobster Films. And Kino releases one of them, and Cohen
Lobster.
Media
Bologna
releases
and
the other
lobster?
Yeah,
one.
I'm
believe-
sorry, you blew through that like it was regular.
I'm sorry.
There.
I'm
What is
sorry.
the difference between the
Well, it's just
bologna and
because
lobster?
these
It's
things
about like $40 a pound. I mean, okay, what?
Hang on,
What?
5
What?
comedy points. No, these movies are all public domain. So the only things that copyrights exist for are specific restorations and scores.
got it.
And so you basically have two different like art house media companies that have bought the rights to different European years-long do the whole catalog restoration.
But they both have piano guys with big mustaches
Correct.
who are like, this is my score. This is
Correct.
the bologna score.
Yes, right. And then yes,
None of
and-
that lobster business.
And then some of like the public domain ones that float around YouTube, because I was looking for copies, and some of them are like a really high quality YouTube upload, but it's silent.
right.
Yeah.
And you're
Sure.
like, oh, there must have been a copyright
Over the music.
Oh.
Right.
DMCA
Yeah.
claim or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you get a weird TikTok that's silent. You're
Right.
Like, oh, whatever this was.
Right.
Is
And then the
erased.
ones that are on
Sure, it was
YouTube are
hilarious.
basically like complete like royalty free. Someone was just like, I don't know, here's like some fucking thing.
Mhm.
But it does make these films interesting to watch because your experience can vary wildly based on the quality of the restoration and especially the music.
The cut I watched, whoever was scoring it clearly thought that, Buster Keaton and Brown Eyes were very much in love.
OTP.
It
Correct.
worked for me.
Yes,
Correct.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brown Eyes is in trouble
Mhm.
throughout this movie because she's due for the slaughterhouse.
Her milk is dust, so they're gonna chop her
Yeah.
up. She's in the trenches.
It's a rough life, okay? Being a brown cow in Arizona.
She's got the old dusty tip problem.
She's
So then what do we have? We have the card game, which I really like with the tiny gun on the
Wow.
string.
Yes, but also what's the great bit here? The great bit is this is basically referencing a thing from a popular movie of the time.
Uh-huh.
Hold on, this is in the dossier. But there was some other Western where the
The
bit,
Heart of Maryland.
yes,
And do you want me to read what the bit is? Okay,
Yes.
two guys
It's a
are playing
Western?
cards. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, Maryland was the Wild West back then. No. One guy calls the other a name. He takes out his 6-shooter and lays it on the table. And
Yes.
says, when you call me that, smile. And Buster, of course, doesn't smile in his movies.
Right.
So we thought if you did that to an audience, the audience would be like, oh no, Buster can't smile.
Right.
He's going to die.
This is a reference that everyone will get from a popular movie that came out recently. And if you put this character in that exact same situation with the same tee up, suddenly their life and death stakes because here's the guy who's incapable of smiling. But I also think it's like the whole setup of the scene is like everyone talks about Buster Keaton's deadpan, right? Here's a guy who basically has a perpetual poker face
Yes.
in the face of danger. Put him in a dangerous poker game. He becomes so inscrutable that it drives everyone else insane. They become furious at him. It is the one scene where he almost becomes high status.
Right.
Because people are so enraged by not being able to read him. And him physically trying to force a smile on his face
So good.
because he can't do it. And when this movie came out at the time, he was like, oh no, they're so worried for me, they're not laughing.
Right. It's
That
actually too stressful.
No one felt it as a comedic premise. They were like, he's going to die. He can't laugh. He can't smile.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think it's really funny.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think the tiny gun on the string is funny. I think
Yes.
tiny guns are funny.
Oh, I mean, the baby gun, he keeps trying to shake it out
Yeah.
of his thing. I do like hearing what his reactions to, because it's like not even stuff that registered for me, but you're
No.
like, oh yeah, if you came up in vaudeville, you're like, oh, my goal is for people to be laughing hysterically
Constantly.
for hours
And he
without
would
stopping.
Do a lot of test screenings and
Yeah.
recut things and do reshoots. Like he
That's
was
awesome.
like working his shit like fucking Judd Apatow, recording the audience and then syncing up the laughs or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm making up that part.
Right.
But yes, no, it's also just so funny to think about like, yeah, this feels like the movie where he's starting to understand, oh, the Buster Keaton persona is so well established in the public's mind that I can riff on it. Where they start to fill in the jokes themselves of going like, well, if you put Buster Keaton on a ranch, this is what would happen.
Right.
I don't have to sell any higher concept than that.
What else happens?
I mean, much like
They go
Seven
back to
Chances,
LA.
this movie amounts to an extended chase scene where the bulls
Right.
chase him through the streets.
A lot of business with a bandana.
Yes.
Stampede of 1,000 steers.
Mhm.
What else happens?
I like the cop escalation joke where one cop comes in and is like, there's 500 steer out there. And then it eventually reaches 1 million. You're like, all right, I'm laughing.
Right.
That's great.
He dresses up as a devil, of course.
Mhm.
Oh,
Which
yes.
I really like that because I also think like it's a black and white movie.
Yes.
He's got to find something red.
Yes.
The whole audience is going to get that this costume is
Yeah.
red, right?
Yeah. No, it's really clever.
And he looks funny in it.
He does.
He's a little stinker.
He's a little stinker.
the best.
And
That
you know-
is like the little stinkiest he gets out of these two movies for me. Is running
I-
around a little devil. He looks
Absolutely.
like the one in Cow and Chicken.
He is an adorable little devil. He does look like the devil from Cow and Chicken, who I have not thought about in a while.
His
but I-
tush is
And
hanging
he
out.
bounced around on his little butt.
Yes. That outfit was also my brother's first ever Halloween costume.
Really?
Nice.
He's very cute.
Little
He was a little
stinker.
devil. But yeah, the cops. There's the whole thing with the hoses,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty fun. There's less. I mean, the stampede is impressive, but there is less sort of like one incredible set piece
No.
that your like mind is blown by.
No, I think I do like he does though is shit like the barber shop where it's like he's acknowledging the larger reality of it's not just that this many bulls are chasing after him. This would affect all surrounding areas. They're like interfering with other businesses, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely preferred the. I was more nervous for the stampede of steer than. But
They're scary than rocks or brides.
yeah,
It's just like right, and you're also just like these are real.
yeah. I was like, these are really. I mean, I'm sure someone did get hurt, but that's fine.
Yeah,
It's allowed.
Probably.
It's
That's
allowed.
true.
It's fine.
People got hurt back then.
And now everyone who was in that movie is dead.
well, this
As
is
you mentioned,
they're all
including
dead.
the babies.
Everyone is dead
Yes,
except maybe Brown Eyes. Maybe she's still kicking.
I like
The
to
immortal
think she's
cow.
around there somewhere.
Maybe she
Here's-
was in First Cow.
here's the quote that's bizarre, right?
Mhm.
So his thing is like, I'll wear the red suit. I'll get on set in front of these guys, and they will chase after me. And my job is just to let them get really close without actually hurting me. Right? But the
Right.
comedy will write itself, basically. I put on that suit. I thought I'd get a funny chase sequence, have the cows get a little too close to me, get scared. then really put on speed trying to get away from them. Like, just do it for real.
Right.
But I couldn't do it with steers. Steers wouldn't chase me. I actually ran and had cowboys pushing them as fast as they could go. And I
Whoa.
fell down in front of them and let them get within 10 feet of me before I got to my feet. But as I moved, they stopped too. He couldn't get them to chase him for
They're
real.
pros.
They
Whoa.
piled up on each other. They didn't mind a stampede at all, but they wouldn't come near me. Well, that kind of hurt when you think that's going to be your big finish chase sequence. We had to trick it from all angles.
Interesting.
So I think it does speak to like, he thought like, well, I'll just fucking let nature run its course.
yeah.
And maybe didn't plan this out as well as he did the end of Seven Chances.
Right. It doesn't quite
Mhm.
feel seamless.
No, because I think he was like, the bits will come to me. I don't need to fucking write gags here.
Yeah.
And the stakes will be real. And they could not get them to fucking chase him, even in the little devil suit.
Maybe Brown Eyes was just looking out. She didn't
Maybe.
know. She didn't know she was
She
fucking
said,
with the
like,
movie.
"Look, he's the star of the picture. He's top of the call sheet."
He
if he
gave
gets
me a
hurt, it's
week
gonna
off
shut
to
up.
have sex.
Yeah.
Please don't hurt him.
I want that
Yes.
I want to read that on Deadline soon.
You want to
That
hear
some
that that
actor-
happened on Aquaman 2.
Exactly. It's just like, I'm too horny.
Right.
I'm
Momoa
sorry.
could not
I
focus.
need a week.
They
I need
gave him a week.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, Jason,
Jeez, you
do
need a
whatever
week.
you need. Yeah.
Go shake it out.
Yeah. I'm in heat.
I just love it. Do you want to play the box office game 4? Go West. This one is, you might get some.
Okay. Okay.
Because these movies I've heard of.
Interesting.
Number 1, this
Number
movie
1.
is opening number 5
Okay.
at the box office, and it was a success. It made $600,000.
Okay.
It's opening to 50 grand, a little less than 7 Chances.
Okay.
Number 1 at the box office.
This must have hurt, by the way. There's the review that JJ pulled up from Carl Sandburg.
Yeah.
The
Poet.
Yes.
Oh.
Although the theater is at times explosive with hearty guffaws, Go West may not be the funniest thing that Sourface Buster has ever done, but it is by far the most enjoyable bit of humor this writer has seen from the Keaton Fun Factory. Final line, this comedian comes close to the Chaplin-esque in his serious comedy. That must have fucking stung.
That is tough to get bodied by Sandberg like that.
But also to throw out Chaplin-esque is like, I'm giving you a compliment
Well-
and he's a contemporary.
Yeah.
Who's number 1 at the box office right now?
Charles
Griffin?
Chaplin.
And what's the film? 1925 silent comedy starring Charlie Chaplin.
Would this be the Gold Rush?
It's the Gold Rush.
Hey,
You
look at
got
that.
one.
Look at that.
one. Oh, that's the one with the potato shoes,
Yes.
right?
Yes, the little dance.
Just a little
It's good.
dance.
Yeah.
It's good.
The problem is he did fuck those potatoes offset.
There.
The Gold Rush is crushing it.
Yeah.
Gold.
Gold crushing it.
It's made almost 1 million smackers.
Jesus.
A lot of
Uh,
Western
Yeah. The
themes.
Yes.
Avengers
absolutely.
Endgame of its time. Yeah.
It is true. It's also a prospecting movie. It's
Yeah.
just
Right.
gold, obviously not.
You're getting to the meta westerns. You're getting to the Western tropes are so well established that people can riff on them now and mock them. Number 2 at the box office.
Now, you may not know this one, but it
Mm.
stars a very famous female star.
Comedy star, drama star, verse. Is she verse?
I would call this sort of a dramedy.
A dramedy.
She is one of the founders of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and United Artists.
Is it Mary?
Mary Pickford, considered
Okay.
one of the most recognizable actors in
Yeah.
history.
Yep.
This film sees her playing a girl,
Classic Mary Pickford.
a ragamuffin,
Okay.
if you will,
Yes.
with a cute name.
I'm going to guess it's called Lil Ragamuffin.
You are close. It's called Little Annie Rooney.
Okay.
She's an Irish girl living in
I've
New York
heard of that.
slums. Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
This movie is 95 minutes long.
Mm.
It's an epic.
Okay.
Uh,
The longest film ever made.
and Mary Pickford,
Sure.
big star.
Yeah,
I don't
huge.
know. She
Yeah.
was the princess of the Bowery.
Mm.
I just love all that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Ragamuffins. Ben,
Ragamuffins.
you love a ragamuffin. All right.
I do.
I think I've said this before on the show, but like fucking vocabulary quizzes when I was in middle school and they give us this workbook with like 30 new words we had to learn each week. You have to write them down on note cards and use sample sentences and all this stuff. And I hated it. It was like the most tedious fucking thing. And I remember sitting at the family dinner table working on this and just blowing up and being like, what am I even doing here, Mom? When am I ever going to use the word ragamuffin in my life? And I use it once a week now. I think it's the funniest word. It is forever burned in my brain. I am so happy I know it. And it's the one I made an example out
How
of.
about instead of sweetheart, call Call
My
saying
little
that
ragamuffin.
Ragamuffin.
It can be
my
a
little
It
ragamuffin.
can be a little condescending.
A little
That's
Oh, you think
pejorative.
so?
Yeah.
That's true.
It's technically pejorative.
Yeah.
But it depends on the ragamuffin. I
Yeah,
think.
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number 4
Number
at the
4.
box office.
Okay.
Now, this film stars Adolphe Menjou, who
Mm.
you would know
Yes.
because he is in
Paths of Glory.
and he's in Gigi, or
Yes.
is it Gigi or something else? No,
Yeah.
so he was like he played a fancy guy in
Fancy scarf
more
French
modern
man.
movies,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But this is him as a young man.
Okay.
He's playing a king from another fake country, Mulvania.
Ooh.
Okay.
Who comes to conduct business and then ends up in Coney Island and meets a cute lady.
This sounds
And
great.
then they have a whole romance.
This is like fucking original Coming to America.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it
directed
is.
it?
It's original Coming to
That's
America.
nice.
It's directed by someone called Monta Bell.
Okay.
I wonder if this takes place when they still had the brothel that looked like an elephant
Oh.
on Coney Island.
Why did
Boy,
we ever
Matt.
get
If I
rid
could
of
go to
that?
one place for one day, it would be there, but only
Jamie.
for like 10 minutes.
Jamie, let's bring it back.
Let's bring
Let's
it back.
It
bring
was
it
called the
back.
Elephantine Colossus.
I
Yes.
love
People are
that
fucking in that
thing.
Yes.
elephant.
And now Joey Chestnut, that's his stomping grounds. It's great.
Hey,
It's great.
Yeah, have we talked enough about hot dogs on this? Maybe
we're gonna
we'll
get back
talk-
to it after
do a
this.
little
I
more.
have some things I want to say. I
All
might blow your
right,
mind
the
a
film
little
is
bit, Jamie.
called.
The film is called. Oh, okay.
You don't have to guess. If you don't want
It's
to.
called King in Coney Island.
Very close. It's called The King on Main Street.
Okay.
Wow.
Love that.
I'm getting closer.
Most interesting thing about this film, it has Bessie Love, the female lead, does the Charleston on screen, and it made the Charleston the hot dance.
Wow.
What's the Charleston?
It's a very complicated dance. It does
Isn't it-
this,
Uh-huh.
It was the
It's
biggest
part of
thing.
it.
It was a fucking phenomenon.
It's hot stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Charleston?
I'm a fan.
Rules.
Who
I'm a
doesn't
fan.
love the
I love the
Charleston?
dance. I love the chew.
Choose good.
Yeah.
All right. Now number 4. Number 5 is Go West. Number 4, however, stars another silent comedy star. We've got Chaplin in this top 5.
Is
We've
it a
got
Harold
Keaton.
Lloyd?
It's a Harold Lloyd film.
Okay.
I think it's one of his most famous films.
Is it The Freshman?
It's The Freshman.
Look at that.
You got 2 out of 5
Hey,
on
now.
this one, and one of them is Go West. So really,
Yeah.
you got 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Harold Lloyd. He's a freshman, right?
Yeah.
He's going to university.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what happens in I haven't seen The Freshman. You
Yeah.
seen it?
Yeah. And then Preston Sturges did a sequel. That was one of Preston Sturges' last films.
Really?
Yeah, he did a years later sequel.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What's it called?
I've never seen it. What's
The
it called?
sophomore.
It's not called
It's called The Sin
Sins of Harold Diddybrook or whatever.
The Sin of
Oh, that's
Harold
better.
Diddlebrock.
Yeah.
Diddlebach.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know. Don't make me say these words aloud.
Yeah, 20 years after his triumphs as a freshman on the football field, he's now a
It's
mild
still
mannered
with Harold
clerk.
Lloyd. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the box office game. So that's Go West. What a great time we've had.
Incredible.
Talking about these movies. What were your hot dog thoughts?
Jamie,
Yeah. What's going on?
you got Raw Dog coming out, your hot dog book.
Yes.
The definitive hot dog book. This is now
Let's
going to
hope.
become the definitive text on hot dogs in America.
If so, there's a guy named Bruce that's going to be real mad at me.
Well, Bruce
Really?
can go fuck himself.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
Which just to be clear, it's a book where it's nonfiction, but it's also you're in it, right? There's a lot of Jamie in this book. You're
There's a-
traveling across the country.
Yeah, it's like there's I drove for my ex and I drove from LA to Boston and then back in a different direction. Tried hot dogs all over the place.
Mhm.
And then there's also chapters on history of meat production. There's a lot about Joey Chestnut
Okay.
and
Right.
professional hot dog eating. There's I sort of followed the Wienermobile around for a while. I went to a place called Hot Dog University, which got cut from the book, so you'll just have to ask me. But
Interesting.
yeah, there's a lot of hot dog stuff.
When I was in high school, my father became deeply entrenched in the world surrounding the IFOCE, the International Federation of Competitive Eating.
Oh, you don't got to tell me.
I know. I'm just telling you for the listener.
Uh-huh.
Those guys
Which
were
appears
around.
to also now be called Major League Eating.
Yes.
Yes, George
trying-
the Shea brothers.
Right.
Oh, yes. All of these people were around a lot. Not the highest level, but like Badlands Booker, now mostly known as Badlands
my-
Chugs.
Incredible.
I believe, I don't remember if it was during a 4th of July hot dog eating competition. It was a different competition.
Mhm.
But my sister, who was like 5 or 6 at the time, gave him like a bracelet that she made out of like some like klutz jewelry kit that he wore at like his next 4 matches. My dad just got all in on this fucking thing and would hang out with these
How did
guys
he get
all
into the
time.
community? They're so impenetrable.
He had a friend who was friends with
As someone who clearly tried to penetrate
Yes.
this community.
Are you
yes.
familiar with Crazy Legs Conti?
Oh, yes.
That
because
was
he
the end.
legally changed his name
Yes.
to Crazy Legs Conti.
Yes. And Crazy Legs Conti was like an East Village weirdo staple,
Okay,
which
that-
I grew up in the village.
That scans. Oh, wow.
And Conti was the bridge through a friend of Conti's. And my dad just got so into all of this fucking shit.
It's pretty incredible.
Yes.
And the Shea brothers are like pretty evil.
Yes. Well, that was kind of the thing was there was, my dad was sort of like, why has no one figured out how to like scale this and make this work? This
Mhm.
should work. And like, this is at a period of time where there's shit like battle bots blowing up on TV.
Sure,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
And-
why can't you make more money off
And
of
you
this?
were like,
Make
the
it
only thing that gets
ESPN,
coverage is the
right.
hot dog eating competition.
They
They
j-
basically have 2 officially sanctioned events per month.
Mhm.
At least. This was like 20 years ago. This is like 2003, 2004 was like the peak of his.
Still like Kobayashi
adjacency.
era.
That was
yeah,
the thing. And
yeah.
Kobayashi was like a phenomenon.
Oh, he's
And
amazing.
you would look and you're like, all these supporting characters are fascinating. All these guys have like really good gimmick. Sonia Thomas,
Oh my God.
who they called the Black Widow. Do you know about Sonia Thomas, David?
No, I
She's
don't know what
she's like, I think my favorite person in the hot dog
Yes.
eating. Did you get to meet her?
I met like almost all of these people.
You got to meet the Black Widow.
Yeah,
Oh
like
my
Joey.
God.
I never met Kobayashi because he would just fly in for the one event.
Right,
He
and
was kind of
Kobayashi is
untouchable.
somewhat mysterious. He might obviously know.
Yes.
He's somewhat mysterious, right?
And he really
He's-
pioneered the splitting, the dunking in water, the sort of the
Oh,
methods.
he's everyone. I feel like I'm like every single person, including the Black Widow and Joey Chestnut, just started doing professional eating because they saw Kobayashi on TV, and like just he was like the blueprint. He's so amazing. Did you see the 30 for 30 about it?
No,
Oh, it's really good.
I may be misremembering this a little bit, but I forget what the Shea brothers, their main jobs, they would travel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say they were traveling salesmen, but they were like something. Sonia Thomas as the Black Widow was like a woman in her like 20s who was like 5'1"
right,
and like
I'm looking
100
at her here.
pounds.
Yes,
She managed a
She's
Burger
Korean.
King on a naval base. It
Yes.
was like, yeah.
And then there was a period of time where she was a truck driver, I believe. And one of the Shea brothers was traveling, stopped at a road stop like diner, and she was there with like 18 plates scarfing them down. And he was like, "Who are you? What's your story?" And she's like, "Well, I drive and I don't want to take breaks. So I just have one meal every 18 hours.
Oh my God.
And I eat all of this." And he was like, "You're a star."
Most people would be like, "I'm calling the
Right,
hospital."
Right. But she was fascinating. And she was just like, "I don't know. Yeah, I guess my stomach's just like this."
Wow. I wonder if that the Shea brothers are such liars. I hope that happened. But
I
don't
do too.
believe them as far as I can throw them, and I could throw them really far.
It was incredible.
They're not very big.
No, no.
I
And they
can-
sort of would dress like Buster Keaton. They'd have like a little
Yes.
waistcoat and a fucking
Oh,
straw
the
boater hat and
yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Right, they kind of have a sort of P.T. Barnum exploitative energy.
They're-
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
George Shea especially. Richard Shea is kind of a mystery to me because I really like his color commentary on
Yes.
ESPN every year because he's like really into like women indie stars.
Sure.
Like, last year he was like, "Oh man, I just saw Phoebe Bridgers in Prospect Park over." And you're like, "Really? This guy?" But
I thought you meant female indie eaters.
no,
Like there
female
was
indie
the
musician.
outskirts, the AEW of professional eating that he was following.
Right. No,
Right.
It's, he just loves, or at least he makes a point to mention it. I don't know. Like he 2 years ago when I was there, he was talking about, he's like, Nicki Minaj's career is on the resurgence. And I was like, what is your deal?
It's just funny that they're kind of like failed Vince McMahons.
Exactly. Which is like, because George Shea's wife wrote for the WWE and soap operas. And that's so clearly what it's
Interesting.
mapped on. Is like, it's a mix of that, but with
Right.
regular people.
But they never totally cracked it.
Ugh, no, because
No.
they're regular people. I don't know.
That's what I loved about it though. I love
Yeah.
the idea that it's like this is like a blue collar sport.
Yeah.
And like Badlands Booker at the time was like the fucking operating like the 7 train.
Yeah.
And then it was like one weekend a month, these guys go and they're fucking rock stars and they shove 1,000 pickles into their mouth and then they go back to their job.
The second place guy, I'm trying to get him to come to my book event in Boston. The guy who, it's so funny because he seems so sweet. He's a school teacher in Massachusetts. He's the guy who comes second to Joey Chestnut right now.
Okay.
And Joey's
What's his
doing,
name?
his name is Jeffrey Esper.
Mm.
it seems like it's going to take a turn, but then it doesn't.
Okay.
Jeffrey Esper, he's a school teacher in Massachusetts, comes second to Joey every single year. And it's so funny because he's so sweet and so mild-mannered, works his job all year. But then when he comes out, he's so clearly the heel of the situation where it's like everyone's booing this 55-year-old school teacher
Yeah.
because he's not Joey Chestnut.
Yeah.
And it's fucking awesome. It's like so great.
But
I like
mean,
him. He's got a good energy.
you
I'm
were
looking at this.
you were talking about on the Doughboys episode that you kind of feel like the Shea brothers like sandbagged Kobayashi because they wanted like a white American champion, and that kind of pushed Joey Chestnut into the position.
They said that. I mean, like George Shea has said that, and I highly recommend.
And
to
Kobayashi
everyone.
also like came from outside of their league. Like they didn't have control over him. He would just fly in once a year and fucking win their thing.
But it's like, but the only reason, so that I love the 30 for 30 so much because it contextualizes it so well. Where like the Shea brothers had been failing to make the hot dog eating contest take off in the U.S. in any meaningful way for years at that point, and it wasn't until Kobayashi came from Japan where there was like well organized eating contest and it was televised and it was like pretty successful. And once he came over and people saw like this like very like strong, compact like guy who could do laps around
and had this
people
like wild technical strategy. They were like, he's like gaming this in a way that no one else is.
Yeah, and it's like it wasn't the Shea brothers, like they didn't orchestrate that. They just directly benefited it from it.
Right.
And then all these eaters were inspired by Kobayashi. The only like Joey Chestnut, who I have such a soft spot for. I love him so much. He like saw this Spike TV broadcast of Kobayashi facing off against a bear.
Okay.
And
cool.
losing. And then being like, okay, so he's fallible.
Sure.
Like, I could, and like that,
Like
and then it becomes his
an
life mission.
Actual bear like was being fed hot dogs, or
A grizzly bear and Kobayashi. There's a video of it. They competed on TV in
Amazing.
like 2005.
Yeah.
And Kobayashi lost, and he's a great performer, so he's devastated. It's so funny.
But it was also that thing where like Kobayashi seemed untouchable for so long, where you were like,
this
he's so
bear is eating these. I am really into this bear.
He's got a bigger mouth and a bigger belly.
Weirdly,
He's
also
not
the
even
bear
going
has like an
fast.
American flag behind him, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess we can claim
He's our
the bear,
representative,
but like,
yeah.
he's
But
not
it's
Came
but-
from the American woods.
I mean, like George Shea especially is so nationalistic, and so
Yes.
then when Joey Chestnut came in and was genuinely good,
Right.
then he was like, oh great, now I can push the white American champion
Yes.
and kind of screw Kobayashi over in the
Well, because
process.
you had this thing for years where like Kobayashi was so far ahead of everyone else, but also, even though the gap was huge between 1 and 2, when he entered, everyone else got better.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
the numbers went up for everybody because it was suddenly like he was Jesse Owens. Like the barrier
Yes.
had been broken.
And he's demonstrating all these techniques that people can copy.
he's
Right.
teaching them,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
And then, yeah, Chestnut was the first guy to basically be like, I can go toe to toe with you. And then since he took over, there was something about Kobayashi where he like felt like a superhero.
Yeah,
And Joey
he's
Chestnut
a good
just-
showman too, and
right.
Joey is amazing, but he's not the showman.
No, and it
Kobayashi
just
is.
feels like, well, now there's no tension left to this. He wins every year. Like, has it ever been close?
So there is, okay, this is a fun, sad thing where Joey has been beat once. It's very kind of like a jokerifying thing for him, I think, that happens, where he beats Kobayashi. It's very controversial because they were so close. Kobayashi famously ate a hot dog he had just thrown up into his hand.
Was this the first time he was going to finally beat Kobayashi?
Yes.
Okay.
And then eventually Joey does.
Yeah.
When Kobayashi is edged out of the league, it's a lot of the focus on the 30 for 30, where Kobayashi was in such a horrible contract with the Shays that they were basically icing him out so he couldn't compete anywhere else. He's trying to get out of the contract, and they're like, well, if you get out of the contract, you can never compete again. So he's, Tanya Harding's out of the
Yeah.
situation.
I hate to see
Fuck that.
And then in 2010, I had like he's such a good showman. He shows up to the contest where he's no longer allowed to compete in a shirt that says "Free Kobe."
Wow.
He goes up on stage during the contest, and George Shea has him arrested on television.
What? How
It
did I
is
fucking miss
fucking
this?
nuts. Like
because this
Ugh.
remains niche.
I
It's
know.
like this is the thing you're talking about. Like, it won't break out of this weird
But
world.
you also have to, there were 4 years of my life where this
No,
was
he
the
was-
most omnipresent thing
he
in our
was
living
indeed
room.
arrested.
amazing.
Yes.
Looks like
I have a Free Kobe shirt.
Cool.
as you
They're
should.
great.
Right. Whatever. They didn't press charges, right? They just kind of got him out of there.
it was totally a
Right.
show arrest.
Yes.
Yes.
So Joey wins for a while, and then there is, I think it's 2014. He's like cocky to the point where he proposes to his girlfriend at the contest on TV.
Fuck, man.
And she's also his trainer, ? Unclear what that means.
Okay.
But she says yes, and it's like, the king and now the hot dog queen, right? Then
Which you're jealous, right?
And I was like,
not of getting to marry him, but of having the title hot dog queen.
but also kind of getting to marry him.
Okay.
And so you're like, that could be me. It's
Sure,
not
sure.
yet, and that's fine. But
She's cute. She's intense.
Nestle Ricasa.
I
And
turn the David, let me see. Turn the laptop around.
I don't know. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
what's coming
yeah,
up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
but then between 2014 and 15, they were supposed to get married a few weeks before the contest in 2015.
Okay.
She calls off the wedding. And because it's such an like campy, exploitative kind of narration style, they mention it constantly during the 2015 contest as it's happening.
To try to build in the emotional stakes of this is a man scorned.
Richard
Sure.
Shea is really doing the WWE thing, but he's like, for Joey Chestnut, he's not getting married. He's back to flirting with the girls at Panera Bread, but
Wow.
seems like he might get it, but he loses.
Okay.
Seemingly out of despair.
He has the
loses.
heartbreak here. Yeah.
And a guy named Matt Stoney, who's like a famous eating YouTuber who I don't think competes anymore, but he wins. And then between 2015 and 2016, Joey Chestnut goes Joker mode, and he like comes back in 2016 like doing 15 hot dogs better and never loses again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He gives up on love, but then he gains the superhuman ability.
And they
to
never
beat
got back
76
together.
up. They didn't. He appears to be dating someone now, which unfortunately I know because I check.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, of course.
Just to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I too would check.
But look,
Yeah.
you may still claim the title Queen of the Hot Dogs when this book comes out.
There's hope for me yet.
There's hope.
I
You
don't-
found an alternate.
You're the
path.
queen of hot dogs. to
Let's
me,
call it.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Jamie,
and
Queen of Hot Dogs Loftus.
I think. Wait, when is the book out? What is the exact date?
May 23rd.
So the book is out in 2 days.
Yeah, baby.
Woo!
We timed this perfectly.
We timed it perfectly.
Yes.
And it timed it so well that you were here in New York and you actually got to do it in person. This
I
was
know.
so awesome.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
And you got to see
see
Blank Chick
this.
Studios. Drink it in.
Yeah.
It's really, I had Pandora flakes and everything.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was great.
And see, Ben, that's why we don't throw out the Pandora flakes because sometimes our guests want them.
Okay.
Sometimes your guest is feeling a little peckish.
Yeah. Sometimes.
It gives some
And-
chemicals.
Yeah, and you got free chemicals.
I got free. I love
Oh,
getting
man.
free chemicals from
Yeah.
my friends. That's great.
Everyone should buy Raw Dog.
Yep.
Listen to Bechdel Cast.
Yep.
And you're on
Anything else?
tour with You're Wrong About, doing a
Yeah.
bunch of shows.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll
doing
be
some-
on book tour as well.
Right. You're doing some
Yeah.
hot dog toast.
But you're one of
shows.
the best in the biz, and people
Raw
should
Dog
just
shows.
follow everything you do.
There'll be a link to get the book in the description of this episode.
Cool.
Yeah. Great.
Great.
I don't know why we seem deflated about this. Like,
Oh
that's
no,
great.
I just was,
No, Griff and
just
I
mentioned
suddenly
it.
are like, great.
Ben said it, and I was just like, how do we do that? And should we have been doing that in the past?
It's easy. You
We
just-
have been doing
We
it.
do.
Okay,
it. We do it.
okay.
You make a little hyperlink.
Okay.
It's easy. It's a code. You
Yeah.
know, use
Sometimes
the
it's
code.
blue,
It's blue.
then it turns
Then
purple.
you click it and perp.
I know it's not my job, but I just suddenly went into this mode of if that were assigned to me, would I know how to do this?
Griff, if your job was writing the copy for the episode
Oh.
description
Yeah.
all these years,
Oh,
Lord knows what would have
yeah.
happened.
I'd still be working on Shyamalan episodes.
Yes.
I'm almost done. Thank you for being here, Jamie.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media and helping to produce the show. Thank you to Joe Bow and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song, Agent McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing, JJ Burtz for our research, giving us some nice tight dossiers.
Love these tight
They're
dots.
dense, full of good info, but they're
They're
tight.
short, JJ.
JJ's
You hear
keep them
me?
tight.
We like how short they
We
are.
love how short they are. We can read them on the subway.
Mhm.
Tune in next week for
Next
the
week
General and Battling Butler.
is Battling Butler and the General.
Battling Butler. What a fucking good title.
This Butler battles.
And also, what if there were a general?
Yep.
You can go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including Blank Check special features, a Patreon show where we do film series and other bonus things. We've just done an episode on Buster Keaton shorts. We picked out a bunch of Buster Keaton shorts and did them with our buddy Dana Stevens. That's a really fun episode. And we're also doing the Planet of the Apes movies, the classic Apes movies. We're going ape.
We are going ape.
David?
Yep.
We're going ape.
We're going ape.
Dr.
I want to go to a nearby hot dog restaurant with Jamie right now because I'm so
Yes.
fucking hungry.
I walked past it on the way here, and I was
And
like,
you've
"Ooh."
not tried this place before, right?
No, but I've
Okay.
heard so many good things.
Yeah, let's go over there because I want a fucking dog.
Yep.
All right, let's all get dogs.
Yeah, and as always, we're all about to eat fucking hot dogs.
Such a wholesome ending.